presence. Respected speakers and participants, as you all are aware, QCI quality conclaves are organized around contemporary themes to help the industry, consumers, and other stakeholders understand challenges and opportunities better and adopt the best practices in quality and technology to strengthen the quality ecosystem. In line with the same, the theme of this conclave is emerging scenario in food safety and quality. The one thing that human needs to consume every single day to survive is food. And this makes food sector the largest industry globally. When we look at the Indian food and grocery market, it is the world's sixth largest and is poised for huge growth, increasing its contribution to world food trade every year. The Indian government has taken several steps during the decade to strengthen the regulations to protect consumers. As food is something that is consumed by humans, the food sector is highly regulated across the globe, owing to its sensitivity to various factors like improper handling, storage, distribution, and even crises like the COVID-19 pandemic. Due to COVID-19, the industry has witnessed many shifts, not only in the way the industry operates, but also consumer preferences and purchasing behaviors. The pandemic has also highlighted the dichotomy of consumer choices. For example, the preference for home-cooked, healthy food is at an all-time high, and the number of home chefs who are eager to try new recipes from the comfort of their homes has risen dramatically. On the other hand, there has been a rise in sales of pre-packaged and ready-to-eat foods. This pandemic has also highlighted the weaknesses in man-made systems, and therefore it becomes very important to secure the basic needs. One of the most important one being food. The pandemic has forced us to relook at the way we have been working. The food industry has to ensure that it establishes appropriate systems to remain functional even during the unforeseen situations like the pandemic, and this requires the industry to review risk associated with food safety and quality in new light. In our today's conclave, we shall witness our esteemed speakers share how the regulators and the industry have come forward with various initiatives and interventions to address the risk and emerging scenarios of food safety and quality to meet not only the changing demands of consumer, but also ensure safe food for the consumers. Without taking any more time, let me invite and introduce Mr. Rajesh Maheshwari, CEO NABCB, for the welcome address. Mr. Maheshwari is currently the Chief Executive Officer of the National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies, NABCB, one of the constituent boards of the Quality Council of India, QCI. NABCB is the national accreditation body in India providing accreditation to certification, inspection, and validation and verification bodies and a signatory to the International Multilateral Mutual Recognition Agreements, arrangements of the International Accreditation Forum, IAF, and the International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation, ILAC, for its accreditation schemes. Mr. Maheshwari holds a master's degree in chemistry with specialization in organic chemistry and is an MBA. Prior to joining the accreditation body, he worked in the specialty chemical manufacturing industry for about a decade in various functional roles like quality assurance, product development, manufacturing, and process control. He has been an expert on accreditation for various projects with international organizations like IAEA, UNIDO, World Bank, etc., and has been instrumental in various capacity building projects for other countries. Welcome, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Pooja, and good morning and a very warm welcome to the distinguished guests, participants, and ladies and gentlemen. Let me also wish all the ladies who have joined us today a very, very happy Women's Day. Incidentally, we at NABCB celebrated Women's Day just now before joining in this program. Food is one such area which every citizen, whether it's from the rural area, from cities, from small towns, anyone who's consuming it. And this food is something which is helping us to sustain our lives. So this is a very critical, and we thought we would have a virtual quality conclave on the emerging scenario, the emerging technologies, the emerging trends in food safety and quality by bringing in all stakeholders together. We have with us today very, very senior officials from the Food Authority, Ms. Inosi Sharma, who's the Executive Director at FSSAI. We have Dr. Tarun Bajaj from EPIDA. We have Mr. Pasricha from BIS, Mr. Sunil Bakshi, again from Food Authority. So, we have all these senior officials from the relevant institutions, from the various food authorities or various food institutions within the country, apart from senior officials from the industry, food industry. So this is how we have designed the entire event. And as you know, the food market is growing in India because we have 1.35 billion population, second in the world, and the market is close to US dollars 180 billion, huge market for India. If you look at the total retail market, two-thirds of the retail market is food or food agri products that are being traded. And with the advent of this online retail, lots of food, whether you look at Zomato, Swiggy, everyone is coming in last decade. So lots of things have changed over the decade. So the emerging trends in food sector is sustainability, traceability of the food chain or the food item, and the digitalization which is happening. So as we go along in the next decade or so, there are lots changes, not in terms of the processing technologies or the new techniques or which would be coming in. Lots of investment is also coming in. Lots of foreign investment coming into the country with multinationals already based in the country, and we are seeing lots of Indian startups coming in the food sector. So this whole sector is quite dynamic, and the exports are quite picking up. We expect maybe in next 5 years the exports would more than double to maybe around US dollars 20 billion. So this is a huge foreign exchange earner for India. So with all these happenings in the food sector and with all the stakeholders contributing their bit, we believe that we are a country which is poised to grow exponentially in the coming years. We supply the food to the various markets, and not only to support these countries, but also to earn foreign exchange for us. So with these words, I welcome you all to this webinar. There I can see more than 200 participants already logged into this webinar. Welcome you all, and we hope that this webinar will not only disseminate the information from the senior officials, from the senior technocrats from the industry, but will also lead to lots of discussion and interaction during the sessions, technical sessions. We would have some question answers also. And as QCI, we have a prominent role in promoting quality across sectors, including the food sector. Within QCI, we have different boards which support accreditation activities. NABCB Pooja has already mentioned that we provide accreditation to the certification bodies, inspection bodies, and we are recognized internationally, not only by the international bodies, but also by the international scheme owners, and specifically the food chain, whether it's a Global Gap or FSSC 22000 or the BRCGS. So lots of international food supply chains, and which the industry, global value chains demand that these certifications when it comes to exports of food products from India. So lots of information packed in maybe few hours for you, and I believe this would be a quite useful session for all the participants who are logged in. So with these words, let me again welcome all the distinguished guests, all the distinguished speakers in the technical panel, and all the participants who have joined us today. So wish you a very, very interactive webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for setting up the tone of the conclave. Let me now welcome and introduce Ms. Enoshi Sharma, IRS Executive Director, FSSAI, for the keynote address. Ms. Sharma, a civil servant and officer of the Indian Revenue Service, has held various assignments pertaining to publicity of tax provisions, international taxation, vigilance, and the appellate tribunal. She has also led teams to enforce tax laws and tax compliance. Ms. Sharma has worked as director of the National Health Mission in Haryana, looking after the procurement of drugs and equipments and adolescent health. Her current assignment as Executive Director FSSAI involves social behavioral change and communication, Eat Right India initiative, and extending support to scaling up fortification across the country and ensuring regulatory compliance. She also has a keen interest in areas of public policy, administration, and the social sector. We welcome you, ma'am. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much, and a very warm welcome to everybody. I would like to thank QCI, particularly the chairman QCI, for organizing this webinar. I would also like to thank the CEO NABCB to be here, along with all senior colleagues from the industry, from the government, and various other autonomous bodies, as well as all the listeners who have joined us today. The topic which has been chosen today, emerging scenario on food safety and quality, it is something so pertinent that we've been talking about, we've been hearing about for so long. And why it becomes so much more important, in fact, in today's time, is because food is not just something like in olden times you picked up from your kitchen garden or from your nearby village and you had it. Now it travels long distances. In fact, there are long chains involved where you have processing, storage, retail, transportation, and finally it reaches the consumer. Now, before the consumer can consume it, it may be, cooked or processed or made in a restaurant, in a dhaba, in a kiosk, even at home. And it is in all these places that the importance of food safety becomes important. Now, food safety, as we all know, is not just the effort of one person, individual, an organization, or a body. It is a collective effort. The government can lay down certain standards, certain protocols. The government can, to a certain extent, as far as possible, ensure that they are implemented. But is it possible in a country like India, with such a vast diversity of food, with the number of people we have, with the businesses we have, and the entire gamut of the food space that we have, to control everything? It's not possible. So, what we need to have is a concerted effort from all stakeholders. And that means bodies like QCI, NABCB, our third party audit agencies, training partners, even the FBOs, even the consumer organizations, the consumer itself, and the government body. And that is why it becomes so important to have discussions like these that we are having today. Now, India, of course, as you all are aware, has moved from the initial focus on simply adulteration to moving on to having an FSSAI Act in 2006 when it was enacted, and how subsequently we've been working on setting up standards. We've got horizontal as well as vertical parameters to make sure that all our standards are in harmony with the Codex Alimentarius Commission, and how we are following the latest trends which are going globally related to food safety. Now, with COVID-19, a lot of concern regarding food safety emerged. In fact, it became an opportunity to talk to people about maintaining maybe aware of it or did not really pay much attention to it, also became concerned about it. And in this particular process, what we found was we could do a lot of online trainings. In fact, almost 1 million food business operators with their handlers, their their workers, everybody has been trained by FSSAI and the various stakeholders involved. Now, a robust ecosystem for food testing and analysis is also extremely important, because while on one side we have standards, on the other side we've got training which has been provided to the food handlers on how safety can be maintained. We also have a third aspect, which is our laboratory system. So because we've realized that, in our country we may have time may be taken in setting up the labs, we also have food safety on wheels. We've distributed food safety on wheels. Almost 150 will very shortly be moved next few years, hoping that almost in every one district there should be a food safety on wheel. What is a food safety on wheel? It is basically like a mini van which is equipped with basic equipment, handheld devices, rapid food testing kits, so that people or consumers or even FBOs can come and check their food samples if they are adulterated or do they have any microbial parameters. Any of those issues can be done. That having said, why it becomes very important is because it instills confidence in the kind of food which is being generated, in the kind of food that we are consuming. What kind of food is available in the market? Where are the food emergency response systems needed the most? What type of food is most prone to, say, illness? So you can actually have a better control over it. You can focus more so that safety parameters are ensured. Another thing that we've been working in FSSAI, as you must be all aware, is in reducing the trans fat to less than 2%. As on 1st of January 2022, India becomes, in fact, one of the few countries, in fact, the only country which has 1 year ahead from the WHO guideline, got the trans fat eliminated and reduced it to less than 2% in food. We've also come out with a regulation so that foods which are high in salt, fat, and sugar cannot be sold in and around school premises. This also makes sure that while food safety and hygiene is maintained, even good nutritious food is being provided to children. Now, when we talk about safety and hygiene, we cannot ignore the fact that in all this, we also need to lay emphasis on what is a good, balanced, nutritious meal. And that is why we also have the concept of the Jaivik Bharat logo or the organic food logo. And we are also currently working on Ayush Ahar within FSSAI. Now, a number of you must have heard about the Eat Right initiative of FSSAI. The Eat Right initiative is primarily based on three broad pillars: eat safe, which we've already talked about, eat healthy, so have a balanced meal, eat local seasonal fruits and vegetables, and eat sustainable. Eat in a way which is sustainable for the planet. So even when we are producing food, we need to be aware what is the carbon footprint for that particular food. Are we wasting food? Are we using too much water? Are we unnecessarily using plastic? How can we reduce and minimize this so that we can have healthier, more sustainable, more earth-friendly, alternatives that can be done? Also, the food that we are consuming, does it actually help us? I mean, once in a while, if you're having a snack or even if FBOs are producing it, obviously it's perfectly all right to have it. But are we supplementing it or totally eradicating our main meal and actually having just this packaged food? So this would actually end up creating hidden hunger, which means we will have micronutrient deficiencies. That, in fact, is another program that we are working on, which is fortification of rice through the PDS, through the MDM and the ICDS program. And again, safety hygiene parameters are being looked into. So recognizing the limitation of the regulatory interface, at FSSAI, what we've also enabled now is the third party food safety compliance ecosystem through the food safety standards, food safety auditing regulation of 2018. And so far, we've recognized almost 29 to 30 agencies which are accredited by the NABCB, which are doing third party audit for the high risk categories of FBOs. Now, we've also, we will be very soon coming out with the risk-based inspection scheme so that food business operators can satisfactorily get their audit done from these third-party auditors. Only those FBOs who are in the manufacturing business and who are in the high risk categories. Now, if they get their third party audit done and they get a score of more than 80%, then we are saying that for 2 years we will not be doing the mandatory inspection. So actually, FBOs will not be getting the mandatory inspection for almost 2 years, and it helps us because then we can focus on the on those FBOs who have, say, a greater compliance burden or who have not been complying to the standards which we've laid down. A lot of FBOs must have heard of the scheme called Hygiene rating. Now, this is a voluntary initiative of FSSAI, again, to ensure that hygiene and safety levels are maintained. And we've been working with QCI for the availability of third party audit agencies and as well as hygiene rating audit agencies. These agencies, of course, carry out the safety and hygiene inspections of the restaurants and all the food establishments which serve food. And again, if somebody has got 5 stars, 5 smileys, then we say that we will not be doing your inspection for 2 years. Now, this effort, in fact, like I said in the beginning, is complementary to the efforts that FSSAI is making towards safety and towards hygiene. Under the Eat Right initiative, of course, we have so many training programs which are going on under the FOSTAC training, which you all aware of. And all those who have joined in today, I would request them to kindly, come forward and adopt these programs that I've talked about. In the end, I would like to conclude that the food regulator, the industry, audit agencies, trainers, and all other stakeholders, we all have to work together towards a safe, healthy, and sustainable ecosystem so that we can develop policies, technological solutions, and execute plans to meet challenges in this new era. Being a responsible food regulator, we are committed to ensuring safe and wholesome food for the people of this country. And I look forward to the support from all of those who are present today so that we can make this a success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your stimulating keynote address and underlining the significance of food safety and the vital role FSSAI is playing to ensure safe food. As we are at the end of the inaugural session, I request Mr. C.K. Biswas, CEO, NBQP, for giving the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
A very good morning to all the speakers and delegates here. I'm C.K. Biswas, CEO of the National Board for Quality Promotion and Integral Board of the Quality Council of India. And having been running the award schemes, ISO standard-based project implementations, events like training, awareness, webinars, competitions, quality competitions, assessments, etc., with a mission statement to be a catalyst for the promotion of quality movement amongst all stakeholders. I'm humbled for getting this opportunity to thank the speakers. On behalf of NABCB, NBQP, and QCI, I wish to extend my sincere and heartfelt gratitude to Madam Inoshi Sharma for having added value and enlightened all of us with the key deliverables on an important topic like food, which is of global concern. I thank her for having set the tone so well for this conclave on emerging trends in food safety and quality. I also wish to thank Mr. Rajesh Maheshwari, CEO NABCB, for the welcome address. And so thank you again. I request all the delegates to please stay till the end and participate wholeheartedly and ask a lot of questions so to make it interactive. Thank you very much. Over to you, Pooja.
Thank you for the vote of thanks, sir. We would be now showing a short video clip on how Quality Council of India is positively impacting the quality ecosystem of our country. Ashish, can you play the video, please?
With a focused mission for improving quality of life and well-being of every Indian citizen, Quality Council of India has been the quality custodian of the country for over 2 decades now. Reciting and propagating the quality mantra with efficacy and verve. Transforming attitude and revolutionizing systems with its expertise, commitment, and innovations to pave way for a better tomorrow. Today, we express our gratitude to each one who has been a part of this illustrious journey of excellence and positive outcomes. Come, let's join hands to celebrate the start of our 25th year of creating this gigantic ecosystem of quality.
Thank you for watching this video. Now, before we move on to our first session, let me announce that the participants may type their questions, if any, in the chat box along with the name of the speaker whom you would like to ask the question. Questions will be taken up at the end of the respective sessions. Let's now move to our first session, Regulatory and Accreditation Landscape in Food Industry. I would like to welcome and introduce the moderator of this session, Dr. Ramanand N. Shukla. Dr. Shukla is an accomplished professional with over 2 decades of leadership experience in business excellence, quality, food safety, environment, occupational health and safety, and training, with an expertise in developing assessment frameworks and conducting transformational assessment for various industry sectors, including defense sectors. A certified examiner for quality management, IMC Ramkrishna Bajaj National Quality Awards, and a senior assessor for CII Award for Food Safety. He has also been a member of expert group on food safety and quality, CII FACE, and a jury for various awards. He holds a doctorate in environment management and MBA in marketing. Having trained over 3,000 plus professionals on quality, business excellence, Z, food safety, auditing, and assessments. He has a keen interest in policy, program, implementation, and impact evaluation. Welcome. Over to you, Dr. Shukla.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Shukla. A very good morning to all the participants, all our distinguished speakers. And it's a great pleasure to be here as part of this conclave on emerging scenarios in food safety and quality, which in fact is very relevant theme as currently we are witnessing a rapid change around us. And we are kind of in the midst of a food revolution. One of the disrupting forces that we have kind of never seen adding to this food revolution has been the COVID-19 pandemic, which actually has led to a surge in the emergence of e-commerce and new delivery models with respect to food. And this includes the online shopping for meals and groceries. I don't think there would be anyone here who doesn't have these apps, Swiggy, Zomato, Big Basket, and so on. So the way we have been actually procuring, ordering meals, it has changed, and it has changed in a very rapid way during last couple of years since the onset of pandemic. So life seems to have become a little easier during all these disruptions and changes. However, these new models and delivery systems also bring several challenges that underscore the need for the modern approaches as we respond to the unique demands on our food system in order to ensure that the food supply remains safe and strong and this need is now more than ever. Now, during these times of pandemic, what we have actually witnessed is unprecedented disruptions in the marketplace, in the supply chain. There have been a change in the consumer behavior, and there is also a rise in e-commerce. However, we have been lucky that the regulators and the food industry, they have been working hard to keep up with these challenges, striving to ensure safe food for all of us and also ensuring the continuity in the supply of this important aspect of our life. Now, with this, this kind of rapid change that is around us, whether it is the pandemic, whether it is the changing consumer behavior, or the new delivery models, or even the threat of climate change, which is actually perhaps we don't know what kind of impact it will happen, although we have been seeing a lot of impact all across. These rapid changes actually call for a new approach to food safety, considering the kind of uncertainties that we are in and the rapid technological advancement. So with these rapid technological advancements, we'll also have to perhaps change the ways we are regulating the food industry. We are monitoring the risks and so on. So in this session, our speakers would be sharing how the regulatory and accreditation landscape in the food industry is evolving to appropriately manage and ensure safe food for all. So I welcome all the speakers of this session, and let me begin with the introduction of our first speaker, Mr. Sunil Bakshi, Head Regulations Codex FSSAI. Mr. Bakshi is a postgraduate in dairy sciences from the National Dairy Research Institute and has been associated with the Indian dairy sector for over 30 years. At the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, that is FSSAI, for the past 5 years, he has been coordinating all the activities related to India's formal engagement in the Codex work and representing India as the Codex coordinator for Asian region during 2015 to 2020. In the capacity of regional coordinator, he has chaired the 21st session of the FAO WHO Coordinating Committee for Asia and also represented Asian region members in the Codex Executive Committee. Mr. Bakshi has been also he was actively involved with the international leadership team spearheading the recent revision of the Codex text on general principles of food hygiene and HACCP. Currently, Mr. Bakshi is engaged in coordinating work related to development, notification, and dissemination of regulations under the Food Safety and Standards Act 2006. So may I invite Mr. Bakshi for his talk. And as I invite Mr. Bakshi, my humble request to all the speakers to try to limit the deliberations to around 10 to 12 minutes. I know this topic is something which will require a lot of deliberations, a lot of interesting things that you would have to say. But as we have limited time frame, that would be my humble request. So may I now request Mr. Bakshi to enlighten us. Mr. Bakshi, over to you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla, and good morning to everyone. And of course, as you have said that I'll try to limit my presentation to within 10 minutes, I suppose. And first of all, I would like to thank QCI for giving me this opportunity to present what Food Safety Authority has done in the area of harmonization of national standards, national regulations with those of Codex. And of course, our Executive Director, Ms. Inoshi Sharma, has already said what all other initiatives of FSSAI have been so far. So I'll just try to, upload my presentation on this, or can it be done at your end, Varsha? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Ashish,
So,
you can share, please.
I'm not having a presentation.
Let me try at my end then. Okay, let me see.
Okay, sir.
So, can you see this now?
Yes, it is visible. It is very
Sir,
much
it's visible, sir.
You may just make it on the presentation mode, and I think that
Yes.
would be wonderful.
Yes. Okay. So basically, what I would be talking about is the use of Codex for harmonization of national standards, national regulations. Just to have a recap in the beginning, that we have certain WTO obligations under the World Trade Organization, which is in respect of or in terms of two agreements which are relevant to agriculture and food. And one of these agreements is the application of sanitary and phytosanitary measures, and the other one on agreement on technical barriers to trade. So these two agreements are very much relevant to the food trade that takes place internationally. And two things that emerge out of these two agreements, two significant things, is that international trade is supposed to use relevant international standards that have been developed by Codex for food safety, then the International Organization of Animal Health for animal health, and International Plant Protection Convention for plant health. So the standards developed by these organizations are supposed to be the reference standards for any dispute in the international trade. And the second thing that also emerges out of these regulations is that national regulations, they are recommended to be harmonized with the international standards. So these are the two significant takeaways from these agreements, which every regulator or every country has to keep in mind. Yes. So as the issue is about the harmonization of national regulations with those of the Codex, basically we would first know what is the need for this harmonization. First one, as I already said in my previous slide, was that international trade obligations are there. So if we see the articles 3.1 and 2.3 of the SPS agreement, Article 3.1 clearly says that national regulations have to be harmonized with those of the international best practices or the international standards that are being developed by Codex, OIN, and IPPC. And Article 2.3 also says that you cannot discriminate between the domestic production, and the products that are being imported. Means, in other words, it means that you can't have two different sets of standards, one that is applicable to the domestic production and one that is applicable to imported products. So there has got to be a uniform standard which is applicable to both types of products. Then harmonization also, when we harmonize with internationally recognized standards, then it means that whatever we are producing nationally, that is at par with the international standards. Another reason for undertaking this harmonization activity is that our own national standards, as we know that they were quite dated, they were taken from Prevention of Food Adulteration Act and the rules, and they were totally outdated, and lot of advancement in terms of technology had taken place. So these needed a review and revision. Then if we maintain dual standards, one for domestic production and one for exports, that is also a possibility, that's also a reality in certain cases. But what are the challenges in having dual standards? One is that it creates operational problems for the industry as well as regulatory agencies. Means that you have to have different sampling, different testing, inspection and certification procedures in place to cater for your domestic production as well as for, and for exports also. Another important point in this case is that our own national standards, they were less stringent than those of the Codex standards, as we already know that. So there was always a possibility that because of less stringent standards, national standards, there is always a chance of inferior imported products being dumped into our country. Well, that is not the only reason. In case your standards are less stringent than those of the Codex Standards, then the domestic industries also faces problems in the domestic market in terms of competition from products that have been imported and which are of international quality. So all these aspects have to be taken into consideration, and that's why this need for harmonization is there. And then the next question is that why Codex Standards? Why should we harmonize with Codex Standards? Well, there are 3 or 4 fundamental principles that are recognized or associated with the Codex Standards. One is that these have a very strong science basis. So whatever Codex Standards are developed by the Codex Alimentarius Commission with the participation of all the countries, they have got a strong scientific basis. The scientific advice is provided by independent expert bodies of FAO and WHO, and without any bias. So that strong science basis is one of the reasons why Codex Standards are gaining more and more recognition the world over. Second thing is that whenever Codex Standards are developed, they are developed through a process of inclusiveness, transparency, and consensus. What I mean by inclusiveness is that Codex Alimentarius Commission has got a membership of almost 189 countries, and all the countries are they can participate at any point of time in the development of these standards, and that is being done. That's a reality. Then transparency is there. The drafts are open to all the stakeholders. They are open to all the countries. They are open to all member countries or the organizations or NGO organizations that are observer organizations with the Codex Alimentarius Commission. So there are these standards during the process of development. They are open for commenting to all stakeholders. And whenever the decisions of finalizing a standard are taken within the Codex Alimentarius Commission, they are generally based on science. Of course, there is a provision of voting also within the Codex Alimentarius Commission procedure, but voting is seldom done. It is done only at the time of adoption of standards by Codex Alimentarius Commission. That also when it is required. Otherwise, all the decisions are on the basis of consensus. Well, that was why harmonization is required. But the issues that need to be considered while harmonizing standard national regulations and standards with those of the codex is that we need to have a careful and systematic approach. It cannot be just copy paste and you notify regulations. Each codex standard has to be examined properly. To what extent we can adopt that in our national regulations and what needs to be done further. So in that process, we have to assess our own capabilities. Are we able to be in compliance with the standards if we adopt them in our national regulations? Do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the right type of environment? When I say environment, it also means that environmental contamination, to what extent it is prevalent in our country. This is very true for the case of contaminants, the environmental contaminants, because if our environmental contamination is too big, then no point in harmonizing our own standards with those of the international standards, because we'll not be able to comply with these standards. So that means the standard that is adopted is meaningless. And then also we have to assess our sampling and analysis capabilities. In fact, the procedures for sampling testing, which are specified in the Codex Alimentarius Commission standards, they require very high-tech equipment and all that. So do we have that infrastructure? Do we have skilled manpower to operate such equipment? And do we have enough, number of samples that could be tested at regular intervals within those facilities? And accordingly, we have to identify the gaps and also identify activities that are required to bridge these gaps before we can finally adopt Codex standards in our national regulations. Then generally Codex standards that are being developed, as I said, that they are developed on the basis of a proper risk assessment, which are internationally done with the help of the independent bodies of FAO and WHO. But there are certain cases where a country can have its own national risk assessments if they are there. So those risk assessments also could be taken into consideration, and the domestic data which is available as regards, the occurrence level of contaminants or other data, other type of data which is available, that also needs to be taken into consideration, and see if we can adopt Codex standards directly as it is, or we need to have some modification in terms of meeting what our situation demands. I have also written about LRA principles. Actually, this principle is that as low as reasonably achievable. This is very true for in the case of those contaminants which are highly toxic and highly harmful for health at any levels. So even if we have specified certain maximum limits or maximum residue limits for such contaminants in foods, we need to reduce the actual levels of such contaminants in foods even below that limit, because these are highly toxic. And the last thing that has to be taken into consideration is prioritization. What standards we can prioritize in terms of harmonization, and what could be done in the first phase, what could be done in the second phase, and what could be done in the third phase, and so on and so forth. And of course, those standards which are relevant to safety, they get the first priority in this harmonization process. So taking all these things into consideration, we need to have a harmonization strategy. So thinking, planning, and then managing that strategy. So that's what Food Safety Authority has done. So in the Codex, we have vertical standards, we have horizontal standards. So in case of vertical standards, we need to know what standards are existing in Food Safety Authority, which need revision, and identify products where we have no FSSAI standards, but there are Codex and other international standards. Those also have to be identified. And then identify products where we have FSSAI standards, but there are no Codex standards. So based on this, we can make prioritization of what we need to adopt first. Likewise, in the case of horizontal standards, we have to review standards for additives, contaminants, etc. For say harmonization with the general standard of food additives and general standard for contaminants and toxins of food and feed in the Codex. Then also review microbiological standards, particularly in high-risk products. Of course, Codex does not specify microbiological standards for products. They don't specify that. But then we have to review our own standards, at least for high-risk products. And also develop code of practice for uniform application across vertical standards. So all this was basically a mammoth task, but this was done. And who all were involved in this was FSSAI experts, industry was also involved, government institutions were involved, subject matter experts, academia, consumer organization, trade bodies. Why these all were involved in this exercise of harmonization? Because whatever revised standards we have, all these stakeholders then have the ownership of these standards. They are not thrust upon any stakeholder in that sense. So the Food Safety Authority began this exercise of harmonization in 2000, maybe 12 or 13. And when these electronic working groups comprising of representatives from all these stakeholders, which I mentioned in the previous slide, they were formed. So you can see that different categories of food products and having different numbers of e-working groups. Even for horizontal standards, then for contaminants, food additives, also e-working groups were formed. And there were a total of 76 electronic working groups that were formed. with the help of all these stakeholders that I mentioned earlier. And the terms of reference that were given to these electronic working groups were study and identify changes required in FSCI standards, use facts, data, and available information to draft new national standards, COPs for discussion by FSCI scientific panels and scientific committees, review internationally followed best practices and standards. And the main key of this whole working was that the entire group was supposed to work in collaboration, because we had representatives from different organizations and different industry associations. And then to draft the allotted vertical and horizontal standards and codes of practices based on what we see what is right in the Codex Standards. And these electronic working groups were supposed to provide inputs in the given formats that was given to all these electronic working groups. So what the action and outcome of this all exercise has been, whatever outputs of these electronic working groups that the Food Safety Authority got, they were then subject to a review and rework by the scientific panels and the scientific committee. So this exercise continued for almost 3-4 years and is still going on. And whatever recommendations were then made by scientific panels and the scientific committee regarding the harmonization, they were approved by the Food Authority and notified from time to time, starting from 2016 onwards. So the revised national standards, basically, I would say that it's a mixture of Codex standards that have been developed so far and existing FSI standards that were already in place, which were taken from the prevention of food adulteration rules, and also taking into consideration other international best practices, as well as our own local situation. So that has been all taken into consideration and culminating into the revised national food standards. So next 3 or 4 slides is just a summary of how far we have gone into this harmonization and what standards we have framed under the national regulations and what are the reference Codex standards, Codex texts, which have been the source of such standards in the national regulation. But before that, just one point also to mention was that even before the Food Safety Authority came into being, India had already embarked onto the this issue or the exercise of harmonization of national standards with those of Codex. That was in 2005, when the first revised set of standards for milk and milk products, including individual varieties of cheeses, were notified. And subsequently, then when the Food Safety Authority worked on the output of the electronic working groups, then it started notifying national standards or national regulations, which were based on relevant Codex standards. So starting from January 16, when mLs of melamine in food were specified, and that was taken from the general standard for contaminant and toxins in food and feed of the Codex. And then in April 2016, a direction was issued in which 33 types of Codex standards of 33 products were as such notified, because that was a gap found within our regulations that such products were not covered by any of the standards so far notified under the national regulations. And subsequently, more and more standards were notified, which with the basis of Codex standard, and this list is available. So they pertain to the food additives, they pertain to contaminants, they pertain to health supplements or nutraceuticals. Particularly in this regulation, just a second. Particularly in this regulation, 2 types of foods, foods for special dietary uses and foods for special medical purposes. The labeling and claim parts were incorporated in this regulation. Then again, we have several contaminant related regulations as well as vertical standards for various types of food products and the corresponding Codex standards that were taken into consideration for all this. I will not go one by one in each of these. Then you can see in the third slide again the same situation, contaminants, vertical standards and all that, and large number of Codex standards being taken into consideration. Here again you can see that, and the last slide is this. But this list again, I would say, is not very exhaustive. I might have missed several pieces of legislations which were also relating to harmonization of standards. So they have been notified. And also these were standards. Also, we have recently notified or come out with 12 codes of practices which are based on the codes of practices which have been developed by the Codex Alimentarius Commission. They pertain to the hygienic aspects and all that, and that exercise is also going on. And this harmonization exercise is an ongoing exercise. It's not going to stop. Codex standards are evolving, so our standards also will be, they will also keep on evolving over the next few years or so, till the time we attain a fair balance between what we have in terms of national regulation and what we have in the Codex standards. So that's all from my side for the time being, and I thank you all for this patient hearing to this information that I have been able to provide. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bakshi. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, sharing how FSAI is working hard to harmonize these standards, national regulations and standards with Codex and other international norms, because that is something which is very, very important to ensure that our Indian food businesses are able to get into the international markets. And compliance to these relevant standards becomes very, very important. So thank you so much for sharing your views, for sharing how you all are working so hard and helping the industry and the country to move forward on the food safety aspects. So thank you once again, Mr. Bakshi. With this, may I now introduce to you all our next speaker, Mr. Pasricha, a scientist F and DDG certification and CSMD from Bureau of Indian Standards. Mr. Pasricha is a scientist F and Deputy Director General from Bureau of Indian Standards. He's heading the product certification activity at BIS. Mr. Pasricha has 32 years of experience in the national standards body of India, that is Bureau of Indian Standards, and is the current chair of the Board of Conformity Assessment of South Asian Regional Standards Organization, that is SARSO. He also has experience working as a member secretary and is the current chair of Indian National Mirror Committee on ISO CASCO. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering in Mechanical Engineering and is a nominated expert from India in ISO CASCO's Chairman Policy Coordination Group, Strategic Alliance and Regulatory Group, that is STAR Group. So with this, I would request Mr. Pasricha to take it forward. And while Mr. Pasricha takes it on, I would request Bakshiji to take off the slide, please.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. Very good morning to everybody. First of all, let me thank QCI and NABCB for giving me this opportunity to share what role BIS is playing in the food sector with respect to the conformity assessment. So I'll be making a small presentation. I'll just share my presentation. Is it visible?
Not yet.
Now is it visible?
No, I can't see. Yes, it is visible now.
Yeah. As you all know that Bureau of Indian Standard is the national standards body. So we are also playing a role in setting standards in the food sector. We have a Food and Agriculture Divisional Council, which makes standards in the food and agriculture sector. It has 28 sectional committees and more than 800 experts have joined in hands with BIS to publish standards. This Food and FADC has basically published more than 2,100 standards, out of which nearly 1,200 standards, Indian standards, relate directly to the food sector. As far as the practices of WTO TBT code of practices, good code of practices for standardization, BIS is a member body of ISO and thus adheres to all those practices of bringing in a consensus principle for formulation of standards, ensuring transparency, involvement of all relevant stakeholders, and then wide circulation to everybody so that anyone can comment on the standards once they are ready for just before the publishing stage.
Srisharji, if you could just an intervention, if you could just put it on presentation mode, I think that would be great.
But I have already put it on presentation mode. Is it not?
Okay, maybe I think it's not coming up on our screen. Okay.
Just let me try again. What is it now?
No, not yet. If you have a difficulty, you can continue. Otherwise, you can just try once more to take this, please. There's a small icon at the bottom. You can click on G.
Just reshare it.
Yeah, I think that should help.
Full screen, entire screen. Is it shared now?
We are seeing, you can go ahead.
Yeah, is it now in full screen?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, thank you. We also aim to whatever standards we are making, we are trying to harmonize these standards with the Codex Standards. That is the objective ultimately, as Dr. Bakshi also shared, so that our standards are at par with the international standards. Coming down to the conformity assessment by BIS in food sector, we are doing it in a very limited manner. 13 products have been notified by FSSAI itself for mandatory certification of BIS, and we are operating about 7,000 plus BIS licenses for these products. I've just listed some of these 13 products where we are playing a role as authorized by FSSAI under the regulations. So we are operating 7,000 plus licenses, and most of these licenses are in the small scale sector, MSME sector. So with these 13 standards, there are additionally 124 cross-referred Indian standards, primarily test methods, which also require mandatory compliance. Then some part of the food sector is also being operated voluntarily, in voluntary certification by us. We are having about 400 licenses for that. Some of the common examples, common items are iodized salt, iron fortified iodized salt, synthetic food color, dairy whitener, packaged pasteurized milk, cheese, etc. And we are running this scheme conformity assessment based on the international practices as per the Type 4 scheme of ISO IEC 17067 of the CASCO. The biggest challenge in the product certification arena, as I told, that 80 to 85% of the industry is in the MSME sector. What I perceive, what we have felt is over the years is one is educating them about the importance of health and hygiene maintaining health and hygiene in their industry, so that the consumer gets the right product, and also making them aware, sensitize them about taking the testing seriously of the product at a periodic intervals to keep a confidence level that their product continues to conform to the relevant standards. So these two are some of the major challenges when we interact with the MSME sector over the years. BIS is also running on a small basis food safety management system scheme. We are also having IS 15,000 for HACCP requirements for any organization in the food chain, and food safety management system also. We have few licenses who have been granted BIS management system certification. This is current. This is what we have been doing, product and management system. But one new scheme which we have launched recently in the food sector, we have notified a new conformity assessment scheme in our BIS conformity assessment regulations. Basically, it has been after a lot of discussions with Department of Animal Husbandry and Dairy and NDDB, and we have prepared an integrated scheme which will facilitate product, food safety management system plus process certification. So the BIS product certification mark, ISI mark, quality mark, and the food safety management system all will get combined. And this is the new unified logo which is going to be used in that scheme. This is primarily for the dairy sector for milk and milk products. So this scheme has been launched in December 2021 by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, and this will facilitate for the whole dairy sector one certification taking care of all their requirements, since currently they have to take product certification, say from BIS, process certification, the Q mark they are taking from NDDB, and system certification from BIS or any other accredited agencies. So this scheme will cover under one umbrella scheme all their certification requirements. All the multiple products are produced by the dairy will be covered under one common license of BIS. So this scheme will be covering all the process requirements, right from the collection at village level to the milk chilling, transportation, testing, process packaging, and then the product testing, then the complete management system. So this will cover the entire gamut of things comprehensively for the dairy sector to begin with. So we also have 34 Indian standards in the domain of milk and milk products, out of which 9 standards are mandatory. And we are already operating more than 4 or 50 product licenses against these. So we are also giving an easy entry to all the people who are already joined with BIS in the product certification, as well as some of the people who are already there with the NDDB and who already have FSMS accredited certification from accredited body or BIS. So that is going to be facilitated. NDDB is also joined hands with BIS in this regard, and BIS and NDDB are jointly from now onward going to work on this scheme instead of the only ISI mark or the Q mark scheme of NDDB separately for dairy sector. So we are letting, after this we have held a lot of seminars also across the country in collaboration with NDDB, and the response from the prospective applicants is very good. There have been a lot of queries to us, especially from the large scale, even group sectors like Mother Dairy, even the Amul and the Virka and many other dairies. They have given a good response. They are talking to us and willing to come forward under this new certification initiative taken by BIS in collaboration with DAHD and NDD. So this completes the presentation. So I thank all of you for giving a patient hearing to whatever little I had presented, and whatever BIS is doing in the food sector in terms of conformities as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pasricha. It's been very nice that you have completed your presentation in the given time frame, while also sharing a lot of very vital information with respect to BIS, what BIS is doing, and the number of schemes that have come, particularly, as you mentioned, there are 13 licenses that are mandatory, compulsory certifications that have been notified by FSSAI, and also the one that you spoke about, the integrated conformity assessment scheme. So certainly we, as you've also mentioned, that these standards and certifications, they are very vital for the food industry, considering the vulnerability of this industry and the role that BIS is playing in development of these kind of certification schemes, which are also innovative and helping the industry to adopt these best practices, especially when it comes in terms of the voluntary standards. So with this, I thank you once again, Mr. Pasricha. May I now introduce our next speaker, Dr. Tarun Bajaj, Director, APIDA. Dr. Bajaj is working as Director in Agriculture and Processed Food Products Export Development Authority, that is known as APIDA, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. As you all are aware, APIDA is mandated to promote and develop exports of agricultural and processed food products from India. Dr. Bajaj has more than 25 years of experience in handling exports of agriculture and processed food products, including developing supply chain, quality assurance, market promotion abroad, and handling marketing access issues, which are very critical for the export of food products. He holds a doctorate in economics. He's an MBA and an expert in foreign trade. He has also represented India in Codex Elementaria, Rome, and OIE Paris annual meeting. With this, I welcome you, Dr. Bajaj, to share your thoughts and presentation.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot to NABCB for giving me this opportunity to present, and especially Mr. Rajesh Maheshwari for giving me this an opportunity, because I am privileged, honored to be here. I would be talking about, this agriculture, like all the sectors, quality is important. That goes without saying. But when it comes to agriculture and food sector, the quality is the important thing. And now important has become in 2 points of view. One is actually genuinely it is important. You cannot make compromise on the quality. Another is this has also become a tool as a non-tariff barrier to stop it. I would like to share my presentation. Just a few seconds to.
Sure, no worries.
Now everybody will understand. Thank you very much. That's okay. So now I think I'll be. You will appreciate now after WTO, because the non-tariff barriers have gone, the main tool which is used is quality. And as I said, quality is important, no doubt about it. But at the same time, it is also used as a non-tariff. Let me just share about exports, because I present an organization that takes care of the exports. On the exports, we have 2.16% share in the world. Of course, this is 20 share, but in 21 we have 41 billion, and the import share is also 1 point share. So these are the broadly, I'm talking of APIDA products. We have $20 billion. We had 2021. The major chunk, of course, is cereals, rice and wheat and all other cereals, and then livestock products, other processed foods. 2021 up to the January, if the till now we have achieved what we had exported last year. So that means the last year's achievements has been reached till January itself, and February and March is going to be bonus for us. That means we are likely to have, last year we had around 30% jump, and this year also we are likely to have around 30% jump, which we are anticipating. Till now, if we see, there is a 23% jump in all together. If we see, of course, cereal is doing well. You are also hearing in the newspapers, wheat export is growing, rice export is growing, but all other sectors are growing.
Dr. Bajaj, just a request, if you could put the slides on presentation mode, that would be really great.
Then I'll continue.
Sure.
Now on exports, as I said, we are exporting to 203 countries all over the world, and almost 15 countries are taking 65% share. So whatever is our exports is to the 65 countries, and rest is to the other 35 countries. This, if you can see, 15 countries are taking 65% share, and rest are to the other countries. That means there is a scope to increase to other so many countries. There's so much scope to increase. Of course, if you see the top 15 countries, except USA, most of the countries are developing countries or the neighboring countries. When we talk of quality, it is required at each sector, each step. This is required right from farm to the fork. Whether it is agriculture, then we need good agriculture practices. For manufacturing, we need good manufacturing practices, good hygiene practices, now good distribution practices also. As I mentioned, after WTO, now the main issue which is remained is quality, and that has become one of the non-tariff barriers also. In quality,
Dr. Bajaj, can I come in? Your slides are not moving and it's not in full screen. If you can just kindly adjust your slide from your end, please.
Now, is it moving now?
It's moving, but you will have to make it full screen, please. If from the bottom, if you can just click on that icon.
No, I just made it full screen, but then it starts. You see, is it okay now?
Unshare and share it again, maybe if that helps.
Okay. I'll just say. So till then, we just do it. In the quality, this because SPS, the main issues which are coming are SPS and TBT issues. TBT, I have just mentioned the quality issues are taken. And then is it okay now? Is it okay? Slide?
No, it's not in full screen as of now also.
So you want us to share from our end?
Full screen.
We can share it from our end if you wish.
I have sent an email to you if you can do it.
Yeah,
yes, we have. Let us share it.
Then I'll exit. I'll exit it. Till it is the time is taking, I'll just share some of the important statistics. I'll keep on just mentioning.
Sure, please go ahead. Now the slides are also
in the sectors also. I'll just see that in the exports we are last year we got 23%, 30% jump in this, and in organic and food sector we got 51% share. So that means because of the COVID, there is a shift in the consumption pattern and the demand also. People are looking to more health foods, and this means now the quality is becoming more and more important. They are looking towards more health food, organic foods, and there is almost a 51% jump. We could first time cross 1 billion as far as organic foods is concerned. Should I continue?
Yes, please, you can. You can just indicate if the slide that is displayed is the correct one.
Okay, the next one, please. Come to the next slide. Another next slide. So this I have already now. Next also come to the now. When we talk of the food safety and no previous slide, please. Previous slide.
Can you go back, please?
Yes.
Yes.
So these are the food safety and quality challenges. They are, of course, when you say quality, then there are, simple metal parts, physical or some external parts which has come, or administering. This is becoming very common. Chawal bhejna hai bhaiya, basmati ke saath sharbati mix kar dena is also there. And when we say safety, of course, residue, chemical pesticides, heavy metals, drugs, antibiotics, and aflatoxins. Now, this is important becoming in the international market. Microbiological contaminants, which are in foodborne, then genetically modified, we need not worry because we are not having much on GMO. Next, please. What challenges are coming to us in this quality? What is happening is what we have seen, the sampling and analysis method is not harmonized. What we test here in our country, they test it in the importing country, they test it as per their own sampling and analysis, and they come with a different result, and they stick to their own result. Hamara result theek hai, this is okay, and then they reject or start taking actions on this. Now, this has become a challenge to harmonize our sampling and analysis with the importing countries' sampling and analysis method. We did in some of the cases like European Union, there was a challenge in peanuts. Peanuts is not homogenized, so taking a sample and analysis is difficult. Even one peanut can have aflatoxin and they can spoil the entire consignment. We then invited the European Union that let's have together what kind of a sampling method you are using, how you are doing analysis, and on that basis we harmonize. We also send our team there, our laboratory persons and those who are stakeholders. You go and understand, and now to a significant extent we have harmonized, and at least we can now what we test, that is if they also test, the variation is not too much. And now periodically we are having PTs also with the respective countries. But otherwise, this has become a very big challenge, and we are facing this challenge in Middle East now because they are so much adopting European Union standards without even having the proper infrastructure and the sampling and analysis methods. The compliance standards are not necessarily risk-based. What we see these days is they say we are facing this problem that's why I said in Middle East, they have taken so motto of European Union standards, not necessarily risk-based. Even in European Union, they have taken some of the MRL levels which are not registered with their in that country, that particular this in their norms, and they say since it is not registered, it is to the level of default. Now that not necessarily risk-based analysis, but on a technical ground they say level of default. And like this, many of the pesticide residues are to the level of defaults, which is becoming a new challenge to face it. Everybody is asking traceability and recall. It is required. But there is also a traceability cost involved. When we say, yes, we are ready to ensure traceability and product recall system, but nobody in the buying side are ready to pay the cost of the compliance. There are also now coming up environmental labor issues. There is also one precautionary principle. They said, no, on the basis of precaution, we are doing not on risk-based analysis or other, on risk precautionary principle. Then there are plenty of private standards. I want to sell to a particular supermarket, they have their own standard. They said, if you stick to my own standard, then only I allow you to export it. Now, this itself is a challenge. Suppose we say we have a codex internationally accepted. Mr. Sunil Bakshi gave a very good presentation that is inclusive, based on consensus. In many of the countries they said, okay, but we have our own system. if we want to assure to our clients, so we have our private standards. Then there is inappropriate flow of information, becoming a difficult. Sometimes they notify in their own language and highly technical in their own language. It is not becoming easy to understand. And sometimes the information flow is also not that much that you can understand. You can get information timely. By the time your product reaches, you realize that this has already been notified, done, and they have started implementing, and we were not even properly informed. Next slide. Next slide. Now, how to address? Everybody has to, all the stakeholders has to go and address it. Government agencies, like Food Safety Authority is doing its job, standard organizations, all the private agencies also have to do it. खुद तो implement करोगे ना quality अपने यहाँ पे, जब तक नहीं करोगे तो कैसे काम चलेगा? Codex agencies, all international agencies, they have to do. Codex doesn't have so many standards. Today we are facing difficulty because they say these MRLs are not notified in Codex, so we are going level of default. So we want Codex and all these agencies also to go proactive and have more and more things covered under their purview. And then NGOs also have to do it. Next slide, please. So what initiatives are being taken by all the stakeholders, and I'll come particularly on APIDA also, to participate regularly in Codex meetings. Unless there is representation in Codex, the MRL levels or the decisions will be taken, which will be difficult for us to implement at the later stage. So participation in Codex meetings and other all international, whether it's OIE meetings or others, it is very important that we are having a significant say and we ensure that decisions are not taken, which we later on find it difficult to implement. Then, as Mr. Bakshi said, those Codex standards to harmonize with our domestic standard. हमें घर में भी तो अच्छी चीज खानी है ना. Once we don't have, the good quality standard within domestic countries, only we keep for exports is not right approach also. So we have to have standards which are good and domestic standards harmonized, and at the same time they're harmonized for export purposes also. Then we need to have pre and post harvest protocols for our fruits and vegetable, and very important is we address market access issues. This has become a challenge, addressing market access issues. Next slide. Now, what other initiatives which are to be taken is harmonization of, as I said earlier, domestic, now harmonization with export standards. Then procedures have to be established so that they are able to recognize unit. Now, every country, for example, Indonesia, Malaysia, all these countries, they're asking that first you recognize your own unit in your system, then we'll see whether we accept it so moto or we then go and come inspect in your country, especially in case of animal products. We need to have traceability. We have in APIDA, we have introduced web-based traceability for many products. For our grapes, we started, then many horticulture products we have. For our organic products, we have complete web-based traceability. Good agriculture practices, now most of the countries have started asking. We cannot escape it. Everybody wants us to start our good agriculture practices from the farm level, then HACCP, and then we ensure the quality at a later stage also, at the farm to the retailer stage also. Then we also have to upgrade our national laboratories because so that they can check that we have the most modern testing laboratories, and they are having sufficiently harmonized their sampling and analysis techniques, and also they are doing PTs with the respective within our country and also with our importing country in these laboratories, so that we have the same testing parameters. Capacity building is very important of our laboratories, as I said, and of our inspection agencies, so that we are in line with the international practices. Next. And as I said, the electronic system has to be introduced so that we have this, everything is controlled. We know on a web-based system, anybody can click, check where do we stand now, where is our compliance system. And even the buyer can. So like in grapes, we have it. Buyer sitting in Netherlands can see this piece of grape has come from which farm, where it is tested, what procedure it has followed, and what has been the outcome of this. Then, the complete web-based traceability, we have it. This is very important that internal control systems are introduced as per the importer's requirement. We have it, but sometimes importer says, I have these particular requirements also. As I said, you may call it a private standard, you may call a requirements of the importers. If we want to sell our products, we accept it, then we have to ensure that we adhere to their requirements before we sending our goods. Otherwise, we'll face challenges. Next. And now the MRL levels and standards have to be harmonized, which are doing also. Very important is now we are talking of mutual recognition. Because we are facing problems in our compliance system, we have to do our compliance. They also have to do compliance. Because now we are negotiating mutual recognition with respective countries. This is in particular happening with organic products also. Recently, we have signed an MRA with Taiwan. We are also in process of negotiating with other countries. Similarly, this is an important that mutual recognition is there so that our food safety procedures and their food safety procedures are harmonized. We follow the same procedures, which is accepted there. Similarly, we also have to accept their food products as per their what we say, and then there is least compliance cost, and at the same time, the food safety requirements are also met. Very stringent controls are there when it is livestock products and fresh fruits, vegetables required. So it is most important that we try to sell it into ready to eat and to consumer packs also, value added products. There, comparatively, there is least compliance requirement, comparatively, I'll say, which is also manageable. It is important. We are having value addition, get more money, and at the same time, quality assurance is. Because in the process, while we convert from fresh to the process, there are so many things are adhered within the process itself. Then, as I said, our transfer of technology has to be there. This is also another way forward. Very important, we have infrastructure, countries level, individual private sector level, we have infrastructure. APADA is having scheme. We are now funding to our private entrepreneurs to have their own laboratories within their premises so that they can establish, so that they can have their own laboratories and check the products. Similarly, we are also funding to the laboratories to have most modern equipments. At the same time, we are also giving financial assistance to our exporters to buy the specific required equipments, which are very important from the export point of view. I give you examples. Color sortex machine. Now, in this, we say they now have become important. So we say, okay, we fund it as per our procedure. Color sortex machine and other quality equipments within which are required in the manufacturing process, so that they are able to adhere to the requirements of the importing country. Capacity building is required. Capacity building and the unending process, we need to do it regularly to all the stakeholders which are required. These are some of the way forwards, and thank you very much once again for giving me the opportunity. Next, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. Bajaj. Thank you for your thoughts that you have shared, and especially the things that you have highlighted as challenges in exports owing to various factors. Also, you have highlighted that there's a plethora of standards which again needs to be harmonized, because that becomes one of the barriers for all our businessmen who are into the food business. So very importantly, you have highlighted these issues, and we thank you for this these insights. So with this, I would move on to our next speaker, and I would now introduce Ms. Varsha Misra, Deputy Director with NABCB. Ms. Mishra is currently working as Deputy Director with NABCB, that is one of the constituent boards of Quality Council of India. Ms. Mishra has 17 plus years of experience in food regulatory affairs, food quality assurance, and food safety management systems. She has also worked for Export Inspection Council and the Ministry of Commerce, as well as for Food Safety and Drug Administration, Government of UP, and also at Regional Food Research and Analysis Center, Department of Horticulture, UP. With this, I invite Ms. Misra to take on her presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shukla, for inviting me. Thank you so much. So let me start with my presentation. So the theme of my presentation tomorrow is accreditation, how it supports the food safety compliances. So as all the eminent speaker has already taken up the forum with quality food, safer food, conformity assessment and the compliance, as well as the value added products, competency matrices and all. So this is overall the international ecosystem for quality, wherein we can see these are the very familiar word like testing, inspection, standardizations, certifications, and accreditation. So I will take up the accreditation because it always means a recognition. So in NABCB, our aura is almost to create this international ecosystem with the recognition to the IF and ILEC MRAs.
Mr. Can you just put it on the presentation mode because yeah, if you can make it full screen, it would be great. Not yet. Not yet.
Just a minute.
Yeah, sure. Yes, now it is. Thank you.
Okay. So let me take my word with the accreditation. So accreditation is formally a system which can create a confidence between the economies and just to promote the economic growth in free trade. And if we define it by the definition, then it is formally a third-party attestation, and it is for the conformity assessment body to assess their conformity assessment activities, which include testing, calibration, inspection, and certification of their management system. Person may be the products also, the processes, services, and also it includes the proficiency testing, the production of reference material, validation and verification, etc. So we are talking about the food quality and the safety. So it is applicable throughout the food supply chain. It is from farm to fork. So when we talk about the crop and animal produce, yes, here also there are the critical controls when we talk about the HACCP, when we talk about the GMP, GHP. So it is across the line in the food safety chain. It is for the certification when we talk, it is a product certification, which comes under 17065. When we talk specifically for the inspection, then it is under 17020, and for the testing it is 17025. So we can see across the sector in the from farm to the fork, when we talk about the crop and animal produce, we talk about the logistics, we talk about the processing and packaging status, and it will go to the distribution stage, then ultimately the storage with the different critical values and the HACCP values, then it is a retailing and catering to the end user, that is we. Please. So this is all about the systems, how farm to fork has created and where we need this accreditation, quality and certification. So this is the ecosystem for accreditation in India. So we, QCI, are building this ecosystem for accreditation in India. We are set up by Government of India with SHM, CIA and FICCI in 1997. So we are an independent autonomous organization under DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India. And we are the national accreditation body to lead the quality movement. And our chairman of QCI is appointed by Honorable Prime Minister. So we have a mandate of accreditation for creating the accreditation framework in country, spreading quality movement in India, provide right and unbiased information, because which is a very crucial when we are creating an ecosystem of accreditation and quality in India. And also we used to represent the India interest in international flora. Always we used to establish the quality of Indian product and services as a whole. So these are our mandate. And when we talk about the Quality Council of India, this is our structure wherein we have a governing body, we have a secretary general, and we have 4 different accreditation boards, which is NABCB, NABL, NABH, NABET, and BQP, along with the training and capacity building cell, that is TCB. And we have a special project group also, that is PPID, Z, and PAD. When it comes to NABCB, so we accredit certification, inspection, and validation verification bodies as per ISO standard and their requirement, which is recognized through MRA for IF and ILEC. So under management quality system, that is 17021-1, we have a different schemes like QMS, ENMS, EMS, FSMS, ISMS, OHSMS, MDQMS. ITSMS, TDR, RMS, etc. And when it comes to product certification, it will be 17065 for personal certification. It is 17024 for inspection. This is 17020. And in NABCB, we have issued more than 20,000 accredited certificate through 100 accredited CBs. So these are the statistics which shows that we are into inspection and CBs through, and we have issued more than 1 lakh of inspection report through 80 accredited IBs. So when we talk specifically about NABCB accreditation scheme for food safety, so we have a management system under 17021-1 wherein we are specifically mentioning ISO 20000, which is food safety management system, which also included different other schemes which comes under the 17065 also. And specifically when we talk about 21, it includes FSSC 20000, FAMI-QS, ISO 9000, which talks about the quality management system, ISO 14001, which is the energy management system. Similarly, ISO IEC 17020 is for inspection. ISO IEC 17065 is product certification, which include the GMP, that is a good housekeeping practices, good manufacturing practices. HACCP, Ayush is also one of the scheme. Global Gap, best aquaculture practices, which is BAP. British Retail Consortium, that is BRC. So this is our accreditation status. You can see like we have a management system certification body 103. We have inspection body 80. We have a product certification body more than 23. Personal body, that is 17024 is 7. We have a VVBs 4. And these are the applicant in line which we are in the process, which are in the process of accreditation under different schemes. And specifically, when I talk about the conformity assessment bodies related to food sector, so we have a 28 management system pertaining to food safety management system. We have a 19 plus, and IBs we have a 29, and product certification is 6 plus. So it is all about the international equivalence in accreditation. So NABCB is signatory to EPIC MRE since 2002, and IF MLA since 2002. EPIC and ILAC MRA for inspection since 2013, and NABL also is signatory to EPIC MRA for testing, calibration, and medical since 2002. PTP is a proficiency testing provider in 2019 and RMP in 2020. So these are the different, like EPIC is Asia Pacific Accreditation Cooperation. Please go back. IF is an international accreditation forum, and ILAC is an international laboratory accreditation cooperation. So the ultimate purpose is benefits to whom it is delivering. So it is delivering international equivalence and acceptance of accredited certificates, assurance of quality for which we are talking, and it is important for each and every sector, not only for the food, and ultimately it is facilitating the trade. This is the international recognition framework, just to show how they are arranged. So you can see on the top, it is ILAC and IF, which is having international multilateral agreements. Then it comes a regional multilateral agreement as per the different economies. You can see Europe, EA, Americas, IAAC. You can say Asia Pacific, it is APEC, and Africa is AFRIC, and it is subdivided under certain different national accreditation bodies. This is overall equivalence framework. Topmost is IF ILAC, then different regional arrangements under which is the accreditation body, and the standards allocated to them. Then CAB is coming, which has a 1702 like inspection for testing, 25 for 21 is for CBs, and 17065 for product certification. And at most is the certification of organization, that is a particular product, that is particular certification of organization, items for inspection and testing as per the standard against which certification has to be given. It may be 9001, it may be 21001 as applicable. So in India, this is our accreditation framework. You can see NABCB and NABL together form this system. And the ultimate, you can see in the topmost of this vertical, this triangle, it is a government, consumer, and purchaser, above which is the product and service provider, which have been assessed with some certain standards, regulatory requirement, and scheme criteria, above which is the conformity assessment body. They are assessed through international standard, and being accreditation body, we are peerly evaluated. So this is the overall accreditation framework. these are the different international certification schemes and which is recognized by and they have recognized NABCB also. So this include FSSC 20,000, Global Gap, BRCGS, PAMI-QS, Global Seafood Alliance, PEFC. And this is the specific slide which shows that in the 2020 WAD program, World Accreditation, they specifically this has come up in the context with this remark that NABCB and FSSI recognized by the International Accreditation Forum, and this is the specific logo which they have given, in which they have mentioned that how Indian Food Safety Standard Authority relies on the NABCB accreditation and how they together are working in our economy. And for further more information wherein you want to look how this benefit, how accreditation is providing benefit to the economies, we can go to this site, Public Sector Assurance, where different case study will show you how this accreditation is providing a robustness to the system of economy through accreditation. So we are also supporting SDGs, which is related to food safety, as we are with the several SDGs. But when we talk about the food safety, 2 is zero hunger, 3 is good health and well-being, 9 is industry innovation and infrastructure, 6 is a clean water and sanitation. So we are, as a whole, accreditation is supporting the SDGs as 2396. So this slide is to show how other economies, they are giving values to accreditation. So there are the few examples which is mentioned here. So I'll not read one by one to all of them, but just for your information that different standards, like if you talk about the product certification body using 17065 audits the production and supply chain of diverse food to establish conformity to the local international schemes like GFSI benchmarking requirement. So next, please. So this way, accreditation is supporting food safety using different standards like 17020 accredited inspection body. They detect unsafe food and monitor hygiene levels. Product certification body by using 17065 standard audit the production and supply chain of diverse food to establish conformity to the local and international schemes. ISO 15189 accredited medical laboratories have the competence to improve health services for the patient affecting by foodborne disease, that is FBD. And 17025 accredited laboratories help to improve water quality use. So these are the different standards and how accreditation is supporting them as a whole, covering the SDGs also. Next, please. Not only in India, worldwide, internationally, different agencies are relying on accreditation. So USFDA relies on, has adopted the use of accreditation. Its oversight of imported food, different, and they have referred this in through WTO and TBT agreement. And also the EC 2017625 relies on accreditation to support food security in Europe. In Japan also, they have the similar pattern, and specifically they rely on the accredited laboratories to test radioactivity level in food. In France also, the catering services, they use only the accredited facilities. And in UK also, accredited testing increases the meat export market. This is the study which come up. And also there are different food certification schemes like BRC, IFS, FSSC 20,000. They have accepted by the Netherlands Food and Consumer Product Safety Authority to just show that how this accreditation has been improvise the quality, and different regulators and economies have accepted this accreditation for the as a quality tool. Next, please. So you can see here, this is only the presentation just to show how FDA and World Trade Center also, European Commission also 625, and MAF, that is that belongs to Japan. It also relies, and UK also has specifically mentioned the inspection and the certification body pertaining to their meat products. Next, please. So this is other economies, but specifically when we talk about this accreditation and how our role has been improvised by different regulators. So first is the Food Safety and Standard Act, in ways where in the section 12.2 prescribes that the food authority may be regulations specified under the is when the guidelines of accreditation of certification bodies engage in certification of food safety management system for food businesses, and also the section 44 on recognition of organization or agency for food safety audit. They have mentioned that the Food Safety Authority may recognize any organization or agency for the purpose of food safety audit and checking compliance with the food safety management systems requiring under this act or the rule and regulations made thereunder. So that way also the food safety and auditing regulation 18 and their section 3.1 prescribe that the food authority may, for the purpose of carrying out food safety audit, grant recognition to the auditing agencies which conforms to the following criteria, namely B, it holds a valid accreditation. So they have given specific this value word to mention that they need to have a valid accreditation on ISO IC 17020 or ISO IC 17021 or ISO TS 20003 for national accreditation from National Accreditation Board for certification body for management system certification for required categories as specified by the food authority. So this is the one about the food, and not only food, this accreditation has been validated and accepted by other regulators like Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, CDSCO. So medical device rules also require use of NABL and NABCB accredited body to apply to CDSCO to act as a notified bodies. And these notified bodies will be used to audit medical device manufacturers or provide testing services as applicable. We have a PNGRB with us. So we have a MOU with the QCI in 2008, wherein they have mentioned accredited inspection body impaneled for inspection of gas pipeline network, CGD, NGPL, review and on-site verification of ERD MP. DGCA is also one of them, wherein they have given the notification for impanelment of NABCB accredited GHG verification and validation bodies for undertaking verification work under carbon offsetting and reduction scheme, that is CORSIA scheme, for International Civil Aviation Organization, that is ICAO. And BE is also one of the regulator which require an NABCB accredited product certification body to carry out the activities at independent agency for monitoring and evaluation to support implementation of BEE's hugely popular standard and labeling, that is SLN program for star rating. Next, please.
So Ms. Mishra, request you to
yes, and this would be
quickly
the last but one
time.
slide.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll come into that. Thanks, sir. And not only these which I have specifically mentioned in my previous slide, these are the different regulators and different industry bodies as well as the government department which rely on us. So you can see that there are more in the lines. Next, please. So I'll come up finally to the benefit of the accreditation, which can't be defined in few of the lines which is mentioned. So overall, the purpose of accreditation is to provide a globally recognized tool to not only access and control the risk of the international operation of the business, but also the product and services that they place on the market. So in this way, regulators, purchaser, and employees can demonstrate confidence that accreditation delivers a safer world. So thank you, everyone. This is my last slide. Thank you for your patience and hearing me. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Shukla.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mishra. Thank you for sharing the accreditation structure, the role it plays, and also on how NABCB is playing a great role in strengthening the food safety ecosystem through its various accreditation schemes. So thank you so much. Now, we already have short of the time that was devoted to this session. So I would just request Ms. Shukla to let me know if we can take up a few questions if the time permits.
Yes, we can take some questions.
OK, thank you. Thank you so much. So I'll just take a couple of questions. Number one, this question is directed to Bakshiji. How is nutraceutical industry being regulated? So if you could throw some light on how the nutraceutical industry, because that is something which a lot of people have been asking about, and this is a question that has been posed by one of our participants. So if you can throw some light, that would be great.
For nutraceutical industry, we have framed a regulation which was notified maybe in 2016 or 17, which I also mentioned in as one of the regulations notified under the harmonization process. So that regulation covers, in fact, all types of products ranging from nutraceuticals, then food supplements, foods for special dietary uses, foods for special medical purposes, and including prebiotics and probiotics. So all information or all relevant, say, requirements have been specified in that regulation, which also includes labeling and claims and what type of materials can be used there in those products. So that is as far as the regulations are concerned. Then basically licensing of such units is largely with the Central Food Authority and not with the states. So they are being directly regulated by the Food Authority from its headquarters.
Great, thank you, Mr. Bakshi, for your answer. Now I'll take the second and the last question, considering the paucity of time. This question is for Mr. Pasricha. What are the licenses for cereal and cereal products? This is something that one of our participants wish to understand. You may just briefly highlight about this.
No, basically BIS is into the product certification as on date for food sector. So the Indian standard against which you are required to take a license, you have to identify, and then the licensing process is all online. There is an online Manak online portal of BIS through which you have to apply to BIS, and BIS normally takes 30 days for granting a license. If you are submitted with the reports, test reports from a recognized laboratory of BIS or BIS laboratory, and then we carry out the factory evaluation, and it's based on the confirming report which has been submitted, and the factory evaluation, including the hygiene and health requirements which are being maintained there, the certification is granted by BIS. The whole process has been through the digitized in the Manak online portal. All queries related to the applicant are through the communication windows. The licensee has a dashboard through which he can communicate to BIS concerned office. He needs the whenever he submits a application under the jurisdiction under which his manufacturing location is there, the branch will deal with the application and process. Normally within 5 days, somebody from BIS will contact him for carrying out the evaluation. That is our time norm to our officers, that within 5 days you have to scrutinize, communicate any issues in the application, and then plan a visit in consultation with the applicant.
Thank you, Pasricha ji, for your answer. And I'm sure all these regulatory bodies that we have, because of this digitalization, everything, a lot of information is also available online, and all the portals have become pretty user-friendly, and you can also get in touch with these authorities, and you would certainly be helped with respect to any of these queries pertaining to specific products, licensing, or any regulatory requirements. So with this, we are at the end of this particular session. So let me thank all the speakers for their insights on the regulatory and accreditation landscape in the food industry. Now, irrespective of the conditions and the business landscape, the regulations, accreditations, and certifications are fundamental to food safety. Now, the primary need for the regulations and standards is for ensuring safe food. According to WHO statistic, foodborne diseases in Southeast Asia, including India, are a leading cause of mortality, and more than 40% of the cases reported are amongst children younger than 5. So yes, the primary objective of these regulations and standards is food safety, and to ensure safer food for everyone. Further, these regulations and standards, as we've listened during this session, they are also required for acceptance of food products in the domestic as well as international markets, and therefore stringent compliance and a wider option of standards and certifications is vital to boost our exports. As we all know that India's total share in exports has been between 2.2 to 2.6% during 2014 to 18, despite India being the sixth largest food processors in the world. And that is where regulations play a very important role in not only ensuring safe food, but also in enhancing countries' trade. So this underlines the need for a holistic approach to ensure food safety across the value chain from farm to fork. So as we could also listen from our speakers, the regulators are playing an active role in communicating the need for food safety, the risks that are associated with lack of food safety, and also the ways to minimize these risks through regulations, standards, and certifications, which in turn will help us eliminate the gap between risk monitoring, food inspection, testing, and compliance. All this is actually a Herculean task given the vast geographies, conditions, and cultures in our country. And that is where it was also emphasized by our speakers that harmonization is critical to enhance food exports by reducing trade barriers. However, we all also need to understand that regulations alone can't ensure food safety. The industry also has to come forward and play a proactive role in inculcating the food safety culture amongst the entire value chain, especially amongst the MSMEs through capacity building, sharing of best practices, enabling end-to-end traceability, and assisting in adoption of suitable technologies along with relevant standards, certifications, and compliance. This will not only ensure that the food is safe, but will also help us to strengthen the brand India, which will help in securing a bigger pie of the global food market. So thank you, speakers, once again. And before I hand it over to Ms. Shukla, today is Women's Day. And it is said that yatra narestu pujante ramate tatra devta, which means that जहाँ पर नारी की पूजा होती है या सम्मान होता है, देवता वहाँ बसते हैं. So with this, I would wish all the women a very happy Women's Day today, and God bless all. Over to you, Ms. Shukla.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla. With this, we come to the close of our first session, and I would like to thank the moderator, Dr. Shukla, and the speakers, Mr. Sunil Bakshi, Mr. H.J.S. Pachricha, Mr. Tarun Bajaj, and Ms. Varsha Mishra for this insightful session. Continuing the deliberations, we now move on to our second session, Emerging Technologies and Practices in Food Industry. To take this forward, I would like to welcome and introduce the moderator of the session, Dr. A. Raj, Senior Director and Head of the Z Division of QCI. The Z Division currently implements the Zero Defect, Zero Effect scheme of Ministry of MSME, the WASH scheme of QCI, the Sati scheme and Nidhi Plus initiative of Ministry of Tourism, and the ODOP scheme of the Government of Uttar Pradesh, among other projects of QCI. Dr. Raj has had an enthusiastic professional career of over 29 years based on a PhD and master's degree. He is also a commerce graduate from University of Delhi and an international hospitality educator, CHE. Dr. Raj has also represented QCI at several international platforms and forums and has presented papers at ASQ, ARSO, EOQ, ICQEM, CSQ, apart from multiple forums. Dr. Raj has also been on the judges panel of various reward schemes to evaluate projects, including ASQ, South Asia Team Excellence Awards. Formerly, Dr. Raj has been the regional head of a leading technical university and also the managing director of an entrepreneurial educational foundation. Dr. Raj is also a voracious trainer and has been intensely involved in training and development activities of QCI. He has also trained and worked in managerial capacities with international hospitality chains like the Oberoi Grand, Kolkata, Hyatt Regency, New Delhi, the ITC Moria, New Delhi. An avid traveler, Dr. Raj loves experiencing various cultures, cuisines, and traditions and is fond of learning new languages. Welcome, Dr. Raj. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Pooja. And Dr. Shukla had wished all the women a very, very happy Women's Day. I'm wishing all the men a very happy Women's Day. and it's required that they need to be wished to. So I'll begin with a quote by George Bernard Shaw. There is no sincere love than the love of food. And perhaps that is what filters down to what we are discussing today. And if you remember, we, at least I, come from the era where most of the food was cooked at home. The condiments, the spices, everything was cooked at home. And it's only very recently, in the past couple of decades, with the advancement of technology, processing, and with higher per capita income, better purchasing power, we have started eating out. And that is the reason why safety and quality of food needs to be addressed. There are a number of factors attached to it. Fast changing lifestyle, eating out more and more packaged and processed food. The spices and condiments which we earlier used to make at home are now, coming packaged by various manufacturers and suppliers, and even raw food stuff besides a processed food. So it becomes a matter of public health which needs to be addressed. Another important aspect perhaps needs to be addressed is the logistics, the transport, because there's a long gap between processing and consumption. So the risk assessment and safety management during mass production and distribution becomes very critical. Another important aspect is that India being a signatory to the WTO non-tariff agreement, it has provided us and the world to access each other's markets. Hence, effective control systems and food standards in order to protect the food production within the country becomes imperative, and to facilitate trade also. So owing to the above factors, there is a growing need for safe, wholesome and nutritious food in a highly dynamic food business environment, which in turn has greatly expanded the scope and hence needs to be addressed. So with this, I would like to say perhaps the speaker, they will be addressing a lot on sustainability, less waste, less impact on the environment while manufacturing food. This has been discussed before regarding traceability and transparency. And then a very important factor is the digitalization of the entire process that happens, self-monitoring the critical control points, the actual implementation of HACCP in its true spirit, the use of blockchain technology. So with this, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker, Dr. K.S. Murthy. He's the head of science and business and head scientific services, ITC Limited. Dr. Murthy is a PhD in analytical chemistry and has a certificate course in finance management. It's a unique combination, Dr. Murthy. He's also a principal scientist, agribusiness division of ITC Limited. He's the business head for scientific services and head of service and head of sciences. He comes with more than 23 years of experience in managing scientific affairs, product development, method development, and P&L. He has been exposed to various B2B businesses with diverse complexities and technical competencies such as laboratory management, product development, regulatory affairs, et al., including sales and marketing and business planning. This is really, really versatile. Currently, Dr. Murthy is spearheading a project of setting up a quality assurance and quality check process as per US FDA of the new extract business. He's a strong business-oriented techno-commercial professional, and I welcome Dr. Murthy. Dr. Murthy, you'll be happy to know that I began my career with the ITC Limited. It was then the Morris Sheraton Hotel and Towers. I started as an intern there. So very happy to have you with us, Dr. Murthy. Over to you. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Raz, and thank you for the nice introduction. I'm surprised that my CV reads so strong that you made it very interesting. Thank you once again. And a happy Women's Day to all of you on behalf of myself and from the team ITC here, who are directly and indirectly involved in this event conducting. A warm regards to you all. Let me share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
Yeah, I have put it on the presentation mode. The concept that I'm going to talk about is future-proofing the food value chain. It is undergoing various changes than we have envisaged and we have expected. My flow comprising of, I'll just give a brief introduction of our company, then the forces that are driving the agri value chain and that requires a faster response and the preparedness from all of us, from the regulators, food producers, and in the interest of the consumers. Then the quality interventions that are required in the food value chain, because this specific event is hosted by QCI. And what is the government doing in India? The few interesting case studies I would like to share with you. And the rapid technology and the various other things that, that are being introduced into the agri value chain in last 3 to 4 years. The agri is considered to be very traditional, manual, systematic, and the technology is seen in a different platform. But in last 2 years, we see the number of startups that are coming and the technology intervention that is going on. Most heard of is the combination of the digital and the agri value chain. I would touch upon a bit and what we are doing at ITC, just one slide on it. I come from a company that employs 50,000 employees. I'm a large family of that, do an annual business of 75,000 crores and a 13,000 crores net profit. We are into 13 businesses which are ageless, can be given to the society going forward, and owning 25 strong FMCG brands like Ashirwad, Sunfeast, Bingo. Basically, ITC is structured into 6 businesses: foods, hotels, like Grand Chola in Chennai, and luxury brands, and the paper boards, the Classmate brand where it comes from the packaging. Information technology ITC is into, many of are unaware of it. And the last is the agribusiness division, from which I come from. Agribusiness division basically is into the exports. The second largest exporters in the India. We deal with 18 commodities spread across 22 states and export to 60 countries, generate an annual revenue of 14,000. This is the summary sheet. This division deals with 18 commodities, as I mentioned. So we also have set up a food safety testing center to support the agri exports. And of late, we started doing it for the external customers. And when we say the testing, it comes the quality control after the product is reached your warehouse, after it is manufactured. We looked at it differently, a 360 degree of the quality. At the farm level, lab services, you do a crop survey and understand the crop either through the quality, the yield, and what went right, what. So after your product is produced, you have no complaints. Then there are technology limitations like the conventional laboratory where samples are sent to laboratory, then you wait for the results and come back. By then, the decision process would hinder the business process. So there are some rapid technologies available. You embrace them to take decisions right at the point of buying. So no regrets. And you'll have to do a lot of R&D to integrate these requirements, the commercial, the interest of the farmer, the perishability of the product, the unaugmented, the value chain, and the technology. All these things have to be integrated to give a techno-commercial solution to that. If I give a solution of checking aflatoxins at 5,000 rupees, I do it at the field. No one appreciates that. It has to come at a speed and price so that it becomes embedded into the value chain. These are the few certifications we have. Having spoke about that, what are the drivers that are demanding the agri value chain undergo a fast response? 3, fundamentally, the agro-industrialization, both at home and in the international market. What is the consumer behavior says post-pandemic and during, and how the regulations are driving this industry? Basically, if I look at the food or the agri value chain, what are the fundamental drivers that are, always put this on the toes are basically the agri-industrialization. Either new player comes, new technology comes, or the combination comes. And what are the consumer demands and what are the regulations in the interest of the food safety? When we spray chemicals in the farm, we use technology so that our farmers are less exposed to the chemicals. We all are concerned about pesticide residues in the food, but the people who produce, their health is also equally important. So there is a response from the technology that we use, technologies like drone and all. It's a responsible usage. So the spray is very, very optimal and less exposure. And optimal usage on the specific part of the plant. There are multiple cascading advantages of that. The less usage of the chemicals, your waste reduction is minimal, the sustainability is appreciated. Then what is happening in the domestic market? Basically, the more and more food is being produced because of the more inputs are going to the farmer. Farmer is getting more educated as the right combination of the use of the weather, his soil, and what can be produced and what is the demand in the market. So the more and more food products are generated and the yield is increasing is fundamentally an important point to note. And there is a free trade because of the economic liberalization, and there is a consumer demand production which we are going to see forward. And there is a diversification that is happening. The two examples that I have come across recently is tobacco crop is under stress because of the demand decrease, so people are lucrative at the alternate crops. And the same kind of thing that I have seen in the grape industry, where the demand is coming down or the demand is constant, but the prices are coming down because there is only few varieties are available. So that chain is also looking at alternate crops, alternative remunerative lucrative crops. So there is a migration is happening. There is a shift is happening from one crop to the other crop. The farmers are appreciating this fact because the interest of the farmer is to be protected. And then the sustainable biotechnology, more and more technologies are coming, seedlings are being generated so that the yields are increasing without compromising on the quality, and the demand for the inputs is also less. Then let's look at what is this consumer wanting. Consumer was preferring to have right on the burger, you have seen eat out like Mr. Raj has mentioned. Now the trend is eat good, stay well. So when people are at home, the health is the thing, wellness is the other thing that most talked about and also practiced about. So the difference between the knowing and doing gap has significantly decreased. In turn, the consumer wanted more vegan, like organic, he wants a clean and pure product, a plant-based meat. The vegetarian should not be compromising on their protein demands and the low oil food or the low trans foods. So the input to keep yourself healthy and happy, the importance of having the right food is phenomenally increasing, not only in India, but across. But we see this trend largely in India. The consumer is becoming more demand, he is more aware about the health needs and all. So in whatever form you eat, either as a pizza or a rice and all, the body understands on the 5 elements, that is, the proximates. It's I eat protein, I eat iron, I eat carbohydrates, I eat oil. These are all the 4-5 things that the body understands. People started synchronizing these things. The third thing I spoke about, the key driver, is the regulatory changes. Let me share a few examples here. Like last year, Europe said there is no chlorpyrifos. The norms have been changed from 0.5 milligram per kg to 0.01. So it takes about 6 months for a crop to produce, and during this time of export, if the norm changes, what happens to the year crop? Thanks to EPIDA, it will have a constant dialogue with the import countries and educating the local traders and the farmers and the exporters. So there is a better dialogue between the importing countries and the exporting countries. We are no longer defensive. We are talking in the same language, and maybe it will undergo a small turbulence and a shorter period immediate, but we are able to respond to these kind of shocks. Last year, ETO was introduced all of a sudden. So all the organic products have been tested for the ETO. That was the time when most consumers wanted organic product, and this kind of barriers would also put us down. So EPIDA has come back again as a very decent job. Now we are in a position to understand what is the risk of this ETO in various agri commodities. Like in this crop, it could be there, but in this crop, I'm pretty sure that ETO is not there. Thanks to EPIDA for educating all of us and preparing us for the need and the demand. Then these are all the few changes that are happening at the domestic front, especially a big thanks to the FSSAI. Their response speed is very, very high. It is unimaginable, whether it is a fortified rice or the aflatoxin standard that can go up to the international standard, whether it is a GMO, non-GMO, whether it is vegan. They are coming out quickly with the labeling norms, prescribing norms, also approving the laboratories, also suggesting how to go about and all, in the interest of the consumer. And the most importantly, a self-compliance is being driven, making the producers more responsible. More you trust, the value chain will put its effort to increase the ultimate value to the consumer. So both in the export chain and the domestic chain, we see a lot of things are happening, but our response is also increasing. So these are the third important driver. What is this? Keeping the agri value chain under constant speed. I'll talk about it little later. So after having seen these three drivers, fundamentally the industrial, the consumer and the regulatory drivers, which are demanding the agri value chain to look it into a different perspective. So what is our response? We would just look at. This is a typical chain of the food value chain. There's the agriculture where the production happens, the post-harvest practices like, there's the grading, drying and all these things. Then the procurement happens. It goes for the processing. Then the traditional way, if you look at, we are here in the quality control. The product is tested either yes or no. It is too late to give a quality emblem to a product at the fourth stage. So if you look at the custody of the value chain, when you want to manage the quality, you will have to intervene the quality right at the production and all throughout the chain instead of looking at it as a control. It is no longer a control, but it is an integral part of the value chain. So what are the various interventions that are going, which is beyond testing? One is the integrated pest management. The one big example is the grape industry, Indian grape industry. The second is the chili and the spice industry, where a lot of inputs goes to the farmer in terms of the what to use, when to use and how much to use, so that the product that comes out meets the international regulations, whether it is Europe, Japan or USA. The IPM production of the grape is a typical example where EPIDA has taken a lot of pain in last 15 years, has evolved through so that the product meets all the international norms. The second is to make it more commercially viable. Few companies and the government has come forward to start the integrated crop management from IPM, where it is a village level intervention, all the accumulation of the aggregation of the farmers so that it is easy to produce at a better speed so that the product that comes out meets the international norms, a better realization, higher productivity, quality, integrity, traceability. And farmer gets all inputs and the producers are also, it is easy to communicate a group rather than the one-on-one basis. So that what we spoke about is the intervention at the production that right at the agriculture. Then you will have the post-harvest interventions, like we'll have to dry the product, then involve the technology there, use the technology instead of, introduce the mechanization, take the right decisions at the right point, whether it could be mechanized drying, mechanized destemming, it's the hand grading or eliminating the subjectivity in the assessment and the testing so that the product comes out, meets the requirement, no rework, more hygiene. Let me share two case studies that FSSI is conducting quality service of the various products. Like currently it is giving quality survey of spices that is produced by various brands across the country so that the producer will be more responsible, the consumer will have the right quality. They also have conducted a survey on the dairy. What I'm trying to say here is the surveys that are being conducted and published in the public domain in the FSSI. So the consumer would come to know, and the people who are involved in the food production would be more responsible in producing the right. So ultimately the consumer interests are protected through these surveys. So this is a great initiative, and going forward it will only increase the quality of the product. And QCI has called for the quality evaluation right at the production of the wheat, that is comprising of the physical quality and parts of the chemical quality, so that it is unheard of, unimaginable, such a large production like wheat has been thought of assessing the quality right at the source so that the producer would get the right quality, right price for the right quality. This is also great. So the government is also putting a lot of initiatives in producing the right. If any interventions have to happen at a very early stage of the crop cycle, like a young mind can be better trained. The same thing is agri is no exception. Let me give you one example that the quality assessment using various rapid technologies, those are being conducted. ITC also uses quite a few. Like farmer takes 6 months to produce a product, and you do a physical assessment right like this in few minutes and assess a price. It's not a, okay, I don't think we are doing justice there. It's so the subjectivity is eliminated through the right technology intervention. All the physical assessments are done through a digital intervention so that it tells you a number. I speak differently, this food is good, this or this thing. Instead, it tells you a number, so everyone talks the same language. A fair assessment of the product quality is done. I think Ms. Varsha Misra has a better way of depicting the food value chain, right from the production to the ending, from the till the end of customer. We had various words like RFID, digital technology, and all these things. What it pans out to be, let me just conclude my presentation with this line, last one slide. On the left hand side of the chain, this is what the farmer then goes into a bag. From the bag, it goes to the operator, then it goes into the processing, then finally it comes to the retailer. So the entire traceability is maintained through various digital technologies. It could be an RFID or a barcode or whatever it is. You build a complete blockchain around it to protect the integrity, product integrity, and the traceability. So these are the various technology interventions. One is at the drone level I spoke about, one is at the assessment level I spoke about, one is at maintaining the traceability. So these are the various technology interventions that are happening at the agri value chain to respond to the drivers so that interest of everyone is protected. Thank you one and all for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Murthy. A very interesting presentation where you spoke about the quality interventions which are required in food value chain, and especially regarding the rapid quality assessment for example, the whole dried red chilies. It was very interesting, and especially the last part when we spoke about the digital interventions in food manufacturing. So very, very interesting. I think after this we'll connect one-to-one and perhaps discuss something of a similar interest here. So thank you so much, Dr. Murthy. Grateful. I would now request our next speaker, who will introduce a very senior person, Mr. Govindarajan from Adani Wilmar Limited. Currently, Mr. Govindarajan is the corporate head for QA and FSMS of Adani Wilmar Limited, and he's currently located at Ahmedabad. He has also worked as a manager of quality assurance in Akalmar Oils and Fats Limited, which again is a unit of Adani Wilmar, and that was in Andhra Pradesh. And he, being a quality and a technical commercial person, he also handled the same at National Dairy Development Board and Mother Dairy Fruit and Vegetable Limited at the headquarters at Anand at Rajkot. He's also associated with Mr. South India Viscose Limited in the Sterling Oils division. Mr. Govindarajan, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours. Mr. Govindarajan, you are muted. If you could unmute yourself and share your presentation, sir. Varsha, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You're very
if you could just call up Mr. Govindarajan. Yeah.
I'm trying to get in touch with him.
Okay. All right. Okay. And in the meantime, I'll keep you all entertained. One of my favorite quotes also is that we as consumers are so enlightened and our expectations are so high that when it comes to choosing a quality food product, which not only includes the taste and how it looks like, but also the packaging and other features, we are not afraid to walk away when the expectations are not met. So today the consumers are walking away from what they don't like. So it's important that we as food manufacturers are aligned with the customer expectations. So Mr. Govindarajan, I think you can hear us now. You are there. Okay, so probably he's having some concern.
Hello.
I would take this opportunity to introduce our.
I'm audible.
Yes, Mr.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr.
I'm audible. Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. This is Govindarajan from Adani Bilma, and happy Women's Day to my mother, my missus, my spouse, my daughters, and all the global ladies. Thank you. And I'm starting this the program. My hello, it is visible. My
Yeah, it's visible.
It is visible, sir. If you could put it on screen show, slideshow mode.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is okay. It's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Govindarajan.
Yeah.
If you could,
So,
we have 10 minutes. If you could just.
Yeah, I try to finish it as soon as possible. I am taking this opportunity to talk about the new technologies that we are facing and we are doing at present in India with emerging technologies and practices. And thank you, the opportunity is given to explain the things. And since the time frame and all, we are trying to convince this we're going to introduce these 6 points where we're discussing about this contaminants, especially the MCPD and GE, MOVA, MOSH, phthalates, GMO, non-GMO, ochratoxin, and pesticide residues. And most importantly, we talk about the MCPD, that is generally called monochloropropane 1,3-diol, 1,2-diol. That is the contaminant which is present during the process and everything. It is not a new concept. In 1960s, you can see this has been as a contraceptive we can find in males. Then in 1970, after a decade, then MCPD was discovered as a food contaminant. Then in 2000, then 2 MCPD, 3 MCPD, and glycerol esters in edible oils comes in picture. Then officially AOC has introduced the methods, and European Commission has given a draft regulation 2017, and it is continuously going on. So considering all these things, to identify, to know, understand what is this, this is a toxicity. It is a chlorine compound, an epoxy group present in the backbone of this materials when you do it in process make. 2 MCPD, I said 2 monochloropolydienol and 3 monochloropolyester genotoxin. And this glycerol esters is nothing but it comes during the process of a refining or dehydration stages is a carcinogen. And I at least said these esters are food contaminants from highest in refined vegetable oils, not in expellers, of course, but in refined oil it comes more. In refined vegetable, especially palm and palm kernels and contaminants, we find a lot of these activities is there. So chemical structures of 1,3, depending upon the chlorine position, it is 1,2 or 1,3 is decided, and these esters are forming during the process. And this depends mainly on the process controls. And these are glycerol and glycerol esters are there as a pictorial representation. And to what is the objective of this is to identify the precursors and to factors which is affecting this formation of MCPD and GE. How to control this thing, how to control in the refining process, how to give it in the peoples that you are going to consume it. This awareness is not yet created so far in the Indian point of view, but FSSAI has given notifications that to reduce this level, but not in that alarming things. But internationally, these things have been started, and MNC customers are demanding low MCPD and GE oils. There are 4 types of qualities that you can determine. This whenever we are purchasing, they're talking about a premium quality, then superior quality, then standard quality, with the difference of the free fatty acids is present in the crude oil. And necessarily that 4 test methods like free fatty acids, there's Adobe, that is dispersibility or bleachability index, then carotene compound, diazyl glycerols, and monoacyl glycerols plays a major role in this. These qualities, we have to state this, we have to follow the certain test methods as per the prescribed by the FSSAI or by the AOCS. These methods are being followed. I am rushing because considering the time frame. I guess 3 MCPD and GE, it rightly said it is a 1,2-diol. This process contaminant found in edible oils because of presence of chlorine molecules, and these chlorine molecules are free radicals and reacts with the body. So, and this is behave as a probably a carcinogen. And in these glycerol esters also, when temperatures are due at high temperatures, these chlorides and chlorides formations become as contaminant. So this is happens in DO stages, and this is how to break up. So precursor molecules has to be taken into account. So that means process controls. Then how to process controls, the quality of the incoming material, quality of the process, magnetic schedules, then washing methods, metal analysis, timely calibrations, everything plays. So even the absorbance we're using in the process plays a major role. Then all the SOPs later on SOPs with respect to MCPD and GE has to be followed. And QC teams has to be trained enough to understand this And for determination of this, high-level instruments are required. The GCMS is required with headspace technology. So those kind of instruments has to be in place. Then only this can be determined. So the levels at present life in soybean oil is glycerol ester is below 0.1 and 0.35 for MCPD, whereas palm oil it is 1 for GE and 2.5 for MCPD. So this is changing regularly with respect to the demands and supplies from the market. The next contamination is MOVA-MOS, that is called mineral oil saturated hydrocarbons, mineral aromatic hydrocarbons. These carbons are naturally occurring in the process itself, where you're using these process chemicals, which is used in the systems. We have given the limitations that actually, when we know that, when the jute bags we're writing in the chemicals, right, you know, the green color, violet color, and all those things, those are the mineral acids place goes into the systems. Even lubricants what they're using in the systems also plays a major role. In refining, we use lubricants. So lubricants with carbon more than 20 plays a major role in these issues. And naturally present contamination is also available. When we see our plants and agriculture activities, as Dr. Thorun rightly said, that eating, following GAP, good agriculture practices, is the main concern, but here, fumes of combustion engines, supply systems of industrial plants, pesticide residues, packaging materials, and production machines also plays a major role in controlling this formation of MOVA and MOS. And troubleshooting is cleaning in place to be there. We would avoid excess lubricants in all pumps and motors. Food grade lubricants has to be used, and process chemicals has to be changed. Pumps and motors should be used in a minimized way, and awareness to be created, and leakages to be avoided. And conversion from food grade lubricants is a must. That means H1 lubricant is to be used, which is cost, very high level cost, and packing material has to be changed, and all these systems has to be brought in place to avoid these things. Then comes the orthophthalates, that is called phthalates. This is generally used to call phthalates, which is coming from the plastic materials. So this is generally happens because the whole world is going to flexibility, transparency, durability, and longevity of the products. Even customized products, the phthalates are available. The phthalates are the food packaging industry is highly regulated, but in a potential danger to this. The presence of food can be, or these phthalates are migrating from their plastic material to the food or food processing and ingredient and all those things that happens. So this phthalates is a picture of this. Actually, this environmental, this plasticizes in presence in air, water, dust, and in produced in higher volumes, this is having plastics having an impact. And in processing also, we have to use cleaning agents, conveyor belts, storage, joints and tubings, and grease and oils being used. So where how to reduce all those things, but availability is there, but main thing is this cost is involved in this. Higher doses of phthalates should be higher effects of reproductive and developmental effects. So phthalates to expose to human is very high at present, and this causes adult infertility, asthma, allergies, breast cancer, and obesity. That is also to be it is considered to be the main source of the populations where the fatty milk, like butter, and meats are being packed in this. So analytical methods only. To be frank, even EOCS have no method to determine these phthalates. Only Nestle, Germany has introduced. Switzerland has introduced this method. It is called for foods. We have to identify this is the method for packaging. This is the method they are using at present, which is we are adopting now, right now in India also. So alternative is this. We got to find some alternatives of the plastics. We got to use glass containers or PTFE or aluminum foil or metal jumps to be used. There are numerous alternative methods available, but they are very expensive and not compatible at present in the industry. That we have to look into it. Now comes to the GMO, non-GMO is a very big topic to be considered because a lot of dialogue is happening between industry and the authorities, and there is no clarity. Authorities not able to come to conclusions. Industry is not ready to face or going ahead with these things. We are having contradiction approach with the things. Long way to go since because we are talking about GMO, non-GMO. We are allowing GMO in cotton seed. We are not allowing GMO in soybean oil. So there is a lot of contradictions, which is a big subject we have to think of, and we have to come to create conclusions whether to accept it or not. It is a big thing. And oil is not having an GMO because protein is not available in edible oils. A lot of things that has to be discussed of. Next one is octotoxin. This is nothing but this another toxins because of this microbiological things developed in the environmental conditions. So when we store the packing material, the raw materials like seeds, that sufficient care has to be taken because no high level moisture, no high level temperatures, everything plays a game. So water level and moisture level, everything has to be taken so that this minimal accumulations of toxins can be developed. When this developed in the systems, the toxins level is increased. It's clear whether it is having an earlier indication shows that it is having an affection on the kidney functioning, and which is a serious one. So it is this penicillium and aspergillus fungus generally develops when this material is being stored, and which is passing through the humans when it is consumed. it is the hepatology, nephrology, everything is talking about these effects. So toxins generally occurs because the mold growth, because of subsequent storage and transportation also takes place. Temperature plays a major role, and these toxins develop under certain conditions. These conditions has to be cut off. So this minimum risk is how to, again, the good practices, how to store the material, warehousing, logistics, all playing a role, and process FIFO, which is to be followed, has to be taken into account. So all these things plays a major role how to control the microtoxins, exocritoxins. Then finally, I'm talking about pesticide residues. This is also a big subject to discuss because rightly a number of speakers pointed out that good agricultural practice is the only solution for this, because a lot of chemicals is being banned, a lot of chemicals being used at present in Indian agriculture sector. The concentration level is also increased, where it is not recommended. These things are coming to picture until further negotiations or little bit stringent regulations are not coming in this agricultural activities. This is not going to be controlled at earliest as possible. And lot of complexities in the Indian scenario that I said you, and chemicals being agricultural fields. It is no control whenever everything can be used, and limit of concentration has to be applied. It is not still big wag, and testing process is not available with anybody so that they can use it. And these determine there is no method is available to determine the products. So everything is there. For example, if you pesticide talking about haloxifab is a chemical which is present in our agriculture products, which is we can detect up to a maximum level 0.1%. Whereas in Germany, the level is 0.03. So our products are getting rejected there. So this kind of sensitivity has to be developed. So considering all these things, this plays a major role. So these are the developments which is happening in the emerging scenarios. In edible oils and feeds, I'm talking about since I'm concerned with this. So we are all dealing with this for supplying to our consumers and the products. And that's all from my side. Any questions I'd be like to take on the end of the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Govindarajan. Very highly detailed technical presentation on understanding food contaminants, especially their effect on health and how to fight them, and the role of lubricants that you briefly touched upon, and the importance of SOPs in the food processing industry. Thank you so much. Very informative. I would now like to introduce our third speaker for the day, Mr. Shailendra Kumar from Mother Dairy. And Mother Dairy has a tagline which says, "Happy food, happy people." So I think instead of saying it's just Mother Dairy, I think happy food, happy people is the fact. So I would like to introduce you to Mr. Shailendra Kumar. He has more than 29 years of experience in quality assurance at the corporate level in dairy, beverage, juice, packaged water, fruit processing, IQF, pulses, and edible oil. So a very focused but varied experience. He's currently working as the DGM Corporate Quality Assurance at Mother Dairy, and he's a key member of the team which implemented various key hygienic engineering requirements. It is a unique and first in kind among Indian liquid food industries to strengthen food safety for key processes in milk processing, food processing, milk fermentation, and CIP systems. So I'm sure we look ahead to a very, very interesting presentation from Mr. Shailendra Kumar. Shailendra, over to you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Raj. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Quality Council of India, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share the learnings and the experience of Mother Dairy team. And I would begin with wishing best Happy International Women Day to all women there. And I will just share my presentation. Give me a second. I hope it is visible.
Yes, challenge.
Yeah. So actually, I would like to introduce at Mother Dairy, we have a small team at Corporate Quality Assurance and who are responsible for designing and developing the requirements for the complete value chain in Mother Dairy. And the topic today which I am taking is again on advanced hygienic equipment design for dairy plant. I would like to just talk about in Mother Dairy, we not even dairy plants are there. We also have edible oil a brand called Dhara, and we also have a horticulture brand called Safal. So I am responsible for all the three verticals. And this corporate quality assurance team at Mother Dairy has studied various national and international standards, and then we have developed our own Mother Dairy management system. So I would be taking you through a few glimpses of that, what we have done. So contents would be on hygienic design of pasteurizer and its control, prevention of cross-contamination, cleaning in place, that is CIP. Now, before I move forward, we must understand that what is the hygienic design of equipment actually is. So, if you can see on the screen, there is a spoon. It is a simple spoon, and the front view, it doesn't talk anything. But if you see the back view also, still people may not be able to understand what I want to say. But if you go slightly deeper and see, there are uneven and inaccessible areas there in the spoon. So what is our learning is that key food processing equipments, the suppliers have given the equipments which are found with similar hygienic design issues. Now, there is another aspect to it, like in food safety, food industry, there are various stages, like there is a food safety hazard. Now, if there is a hazard, we need to put a control in place, control measure in place. Now, there can be various level of that control. Like if we take an example of pasteurizer, and in pasteurizer, that time temperature requirement needs to be met. Now in pasteurizer there is a flow diversion valve. Now if there is a first level, the low degree of control is there, that is called manual detection and manual control. So the operator will be there and he will divert the valve if the temperature is not met, and he will forward the valve if the temperature is meeting the compliance. Now there is another level that is called auto detection and manual control. Now in auto detection manual control, people have seen in past that suppose operator is not present at the site, so there can be some alarm or there can be some flashlight so that operator can run and do the needful. Now there is another level, which is the latest one, which with a high degree of strictness and controlling hazard, that is called auto detection and auto control. This concept says the flow diversion valve is an automatic valve, it will take care on itself, no need of operator. So this is the food safety maturity continuum for strengthening the control measures, but actually this team of ours is not limiting ourselves to this level. So we are talking about fail-safe system. So today I would be taking you through the fail-safe mechanism which we have implemented across our mother dairy plants, and we have been encouraging other industry player also through these kind of seminars, and we are sharing our information with them. So now if I go with respect to the pasteurizer, hygienic design and its control. So first part is the example which I have quoted. Now there is another possibility when we say auto detection and auto control. It is there, but there is a possibility. What is the possibility? What is the difference between auto detection, auto control and fail safe? There is a possibility because there is a temperature gauge. If the temperature gauge calibration is not correct, if it is reading erroneous, so my whole process depend upon single temperature gauge. So now how to make it fail safe? We have put two pressure transducer or temperature sensors at the outlet of the flow diversion valve. So this is the EHEDG requirement, also European Hygiene Design Engineering requirement. This kind of requirement, by putting two sensors, we are making it sure, doubly sure, making it fail safe, because both the temperatures, it is highly impossible that both the temperature gauges will go wrong at the same time. So that is very simple but very logical and very, very practical. Next, this is the same requirement which typically I have tried to show in this one. Now, the another requirement is the holding coil design of the pasteurizer. On the right side of the screen, you see there is a without upward slope. So that is not required. What is required is the holding coil should have an upward slope of 2.1 centimeter per meter. Why this slope is required? And it should be a continuous upward slope, just to eliminate the air entrapment because if there is a air entrapment, the holding time we will not be able to practically meet if for the each particle of the milk. This is another picture of the real time from the plants we have taken for the continuous upward slope of the holding coil. The requirement is 2.1 centimeter per meter. Another requirement, I'm just quoting few examples. Another requirement is, suppose my valve, flow diversion valve in a pasteurizer is in a divert mode or is in a forward mode. If I do not know, if I want to know later on through my data recording or through MIS system, so it has to be there. So earlier it was not there. So with the intervention, these kind of, you can see on the screen under the dotted circle, clearly in the data logging in the MIS system, it is written whether the valve is in a forward position or is in a divert position. So a person, the quality assurance person later can see through the records also whether that when the temperature was met, the valve was functioning properly or not. Moving forward to when we say pasteurization time and temperature control, there are a few requirements like positioning of flow diversion valve. It should be at the holding coil outlet, temperature sensor position at the outlet of holding coil prior to FDV, and the response time, because this response time is very important. The temperature sensor needs to be placed at certain distance from the FDV so that the senses which when it goes to the flow diversion valve, the milk should not pass. So that response time is very important. Another part is unsafe to safe mode. Like suppose there is a power failure or there is an air failure in the plant. The flow diversion valve should always be open towards the divert side, not towards the forward side. Otherwise, when the air is not there, because these are the air actuated valves, and suppose the power failure is not there, so there is a risk of the unpasteurized milk going in the forward direction to the pasteurized milk silo. Moving forward, another very important part is the prevention of cross contamination. Cross contamination is a very, very important and a risk, a big risk in the dairy industry, specifically in all liquid industry, but specifically I will talk about the dairy industry. So if you say earlier times there were three-way valves, and some of the industries are still using three-way valves. So the right way of physical separation is through a use of flow plate. So if we say how this industry has evolved with respect to the valves, earlier there were three-way valves because they were very easy to maintain, small in size, but at the same time they are having unhygienic design, and then they can lead to cross contamination. So the next level for the smaller size dairies, suppose 50,000 liter per day capacity dairies or maximum 1 lakh liter, there can be a flow plate system which can be put to physically separate the two different liquids like CIP liquid and the processed pasteurized or unpasteurized milk. But at the same time, when we have a bigger dairy of higher capacities, these working with the flow plate mechanism will be very tiresome. So then we can have an automated wall battery system for separation, and at the same time the liquids can be separated and the process keeps going on. So now when we talk about these wall batteries, there are specialized walls which need to be placed, which are double seat mix proof pressure balance valve. So if you see, there are two, the red liquid and the blue liquid, there are two separate liquid. One can be a CIP solution, one can be a pasteurized milk. But in this kind of valve, there is no possibility of intermixing of these liquids, and we can run our system uninterrupted continuously without stopping. So what is the design part of these in these valves? There is a separation by a seal and a seat, but in these kind of valves there are two seats and two seals. So it is again a fail-safe mechanism. And at the same time, if some of the seal gets leaked, so there is a leak detection system. So this liquid will not get into the another liquid, but however there is a leak detection pipe and it will start dropping into the system. The operator will come to know that there is some leakage. At the same time, after the process he can correct it. Now, this is very important, and most of the dairy industries were not having it. Now we have implemented across. This is the diversion line which is coming from the pasteurizer back to the balance tank, and most of the places it was connected on the bottom. Now it should not get connected to the bottom. It should be coming from the top. In the next slide, I can show why. Because there is a possibility of siphonage of raw milk from the balance tank into the pasteurized milk. In this diagram, you can see the yellow lines. There is a possibility if the milk, the raw milk is touching the divert line, they can, and if there is a small damage in the seat of the seal, the rubber gasket is cut. So there is a possibility of siphonage of the raw milk into the pasteurized milk stream. Now, what is the requirement for the balance tank? The balance tank design requirement is that the lines which are coming into the balance tank, those should be coming from the top, and those should be at a distance of 2D. Suppose the line diameter is 2 inches, then it should be at a 4-inch height from the flood level of the balance tank, and the balance tank overflow line dia should also be double the dia of the incoming lines. So these kind of very small things are there, which looks very small, but very practical and very important. Now, moving forward, there are homogenizers in the industries, and there are lively dead ends. You can see on the left hand side, the red color dead end is there. These lines are given for circulation through the homogenizer until the pressure is obtained or developed. However, these lines act as a big dead ends. These are the lively dead ends, and a possibility of microbiological challenges are there. Now, on the right hand side with the yellow, this thing, you can see how the dead ends are reduced to less than 1D. So there is no dead ends, and then it can be, there is no possibility of contamination, micro contamination. Moving forward, just hold on.
Running short of time.
Yeah. So in mitigation, we have to modify the lines with zero dead lag. Now this is the live example of homogenizer with a big lively dead end on the left, and how it got corrected at the plant level also can be seen on the right side. Now, why the dead ends are risky? I will just show you a small video on that, what dead ends can actually do. If you can see this video, there is on the right hand side, there is a dead end of more than 1D, more than 2D. So the turbulence of the water which is flowing, you can see it is not reaching up to that far end. So if the dead end is there more than 2D, it is highly impossible that it will get cleaned during the CIP. Yeah, moving forward, cross-contamination control post-pasteurization. As you know, in pasteurizer, there are thin plates by which pasteurized milk and cooling medium or heating medium is separated. Now the thickness of these plates is very thin, like a paper, 0.6 mm. So, and these are packed into a plate pack system, and we cannot see on daily basis whether there is any problem inside or not. So if there is a pinhole leakage in any of the plate, so there is a possibility of cooling medium or heating medium going into the pasteurized milk, and it's a big risk. Now, how to maintain it, how to prevent it, what is the fail-safe mechanism for this? For this, we say we need to maintain positive pressure on the pasteurized milk side or any product side. If it is a juice industry, the product side. So product side should have a positive pressure. Now, how to have a positive pressure? By we can maintain the positive pressure on the pasteurized product side by putting a positive pressure by putting a back pressure valve, okay, and there are pressure gauges and there is a booster pump. Now this drawing is clearly showing at the outlet of regeneration 2, zone 2, before the heating zone and after the homogenizer. A booster pump needs to be installed to develop the pressure, and as it goes after the FDV, as it goes into the cooling zone, there is a back pressure valve. So on one side we are developing the pressure, and other side we are plugging the pressure in the line, and in the cooling zone the pressure will get developed into the product side. So if there is a leakage also, the product will flow into the cooling medium, but cooling medium will not flow into the product. So we are safe. So this is the requirement which is very, very important. Now moving forward,
Shalenji, we are running short of time. Request you to please conclude. Thank you.
Yeah, it is the last topic, CIP. In CIP, you know, we talk about 5T technology. Now, turbulence, time, temperature, titer, and the fifth one is technology, which is very important. Now, here in industry, it has been seen that turbulence turbulence part is getting neglected. Now, what is the requirement for turbulence? 1.5 meter per second to get the proper cleaning, and this turbulence is required in the cleaning step of the CIP. Now, why it is important? I will just show a small video, not take much time. If you can see, the turbulence here is 0.3 meter per second, and these small dead ends are not getting cleaned. Now the turbulence has increased to 0.9 meter per second. Still we are having some issues of not getting proper cleanliness on the small dead ends. But once the turbulence has increased to 1.5 meter per second, you can see it is getting cleaned very easily. Moving forward in the CIP kitchen, most of the earlier CIP kitchens were like that, which you can see on the slide. The recuperation tank, hot water tank, caustic tank are like this. So there are lively dead ends which form during the final step. Suppose there is a wall which is slightly leaking from the caustic tank or a hot or a recuperation tank, so it will make a lively dead end. This line will have the caustic solution, and when we do the final rinse with the fresh water, these solutions will also get flooded into the already CIP system. Now, how to handle it? To handle it, there are two ways. One is to provide safe flow wall. Safe flow wall are hygienic in design, and they have a double seal arrangement there, so they will not allow any leakage to go into the system. Or otherwise, if we do not have, then we can have a proper orientation of tanks. Like these are the forward pump of CIP. So the just next to the forward pump, there should be a fresh water tank, then there should be a recuperation tank, then caustic, and then acid. So this orientation of tanks, CIP tanks, is very important. Additionally, we will put a safe drain wall before the fresh water tank. Suppose if there is any leakage from any of the acid, caustic, or recuperation water, it will get drained before the fresh water tank.
We are really behind schedule. I would request you to kindly conclude.
Yeah, I am just completing it. I am just completing. This is the live example. These are the spray ball, various kind of spray ball. 360-degree spray ball is important. And why it is the requirement is we need to have spray ball on both sides of the tanks if there are internal structure in the tanks. And we talk about rotary jet head because it have an impact cleaning rather than the static spray ball. Rotary jet heads are better. They'll take less time, less titer value, less chemistry, less temperature. Still the cleaning is done through the impact. So I will just rush through. So the concept here which I am talking about is we can fight with the risk, but damage is likely. We can control the risk. Failure of control will be a disastrous. But if we understand the risk, we can rule the risk. So understanding the risk and adopting fail-safe control measure through hygienic engineering shall be the best option for the risk elimination. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Shalenji.
Thank you for your patience
today from you, and especially the hygienic design of pasteurizer, the food safety hazards and how to meet them, and aligning the positioning of various diversion valves and avoiding cross-contamination with the use of digital technology. Very, very interesting. Thank you so much. I would like to now introduce you to our next speaker, which is Mr. Prabodh Halde. And Dr. Halde is currently working in Marico Limited as the head of regulatory affairs. And Marico Limited is one of India's leading consumer goods companies operating in the global beauty and wellness categories. He comes with more than 28 years of experience and has also worked with Bakemans, ACC, and Coca-Cola within India. He's been on various boards and has been a renowned trainer in areas of food processing, food safety, and startups. He's a central advisory member of FSSAI and also as a representative of the food industry. He's also a member of the Niti Aayog Empowered Group, and he has represented India 6 times for Codex meetings. He will be talking today regarding food startups benefiting from emerging technology. Over to you, Prabodhji, and I request you to kindly keep it as limited. We have already infringed on the lunchtime of a lot of. We still have more than 200 viewers, listeners here. So, Prabodhji, welcome, and over to you. Prabodhji, you're muted. If you could unmute yourself, sir.
Not able to. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Chair and Dr. Raj and all my speakers and all the earlier dignitaries, those who are present today. I have actually joined at 10:30 and I'm listening to all the speakers. It's a wonderful. And let me thanks to Dr. Varsha, Pooja ji for inviting me and all your wonderful team. And Govind Rajan, hello sir, Vishwas Saab, I could see actually FSSI team also. Okay, without taking much time, I know that everybody is hungry and then one should not be doing that kind of injustice to our stomach, because for that only we work. And I will not be coming in between, but since you invited me, I will be speaking for 12 minutes is okay? Or you tell me, sir, the time I will complete in that.
Request you to keep it under 10 minutes, Dr. Halde. Thank you so much.
I will complete in 8 minutes. So 2 minutes is bonus to everyone. So please allow me to present my topic, and I would like to first say Happy Women's Day. And we come from the culture where always we say that we respect women. I'm not able to upload. Can you make me the admin? I think I'm not able to. Hello.
Yes, sir, you can share your screen, sir. You have
Okay.
an access. Yes, sir.
Okay. 1 minute. Okay. So Happy Women's Day to everyone. Let me. I will complete in 8 minutes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, great. Sorry, there is a technical glitch. Is the screen is visible?
Prabodhji, you got to reload again.
Sorry, sir.
Yeah. So
yes,
okay.
it is visible now.
Yes, sir, it's visible now.
Okay. Friends, we have completed 2 years of our exactly 2 years back. This particular this corona has came in, and let me tell you, in the food processing industry, I think this is an opportunity. During the corona time, we have seen that the industry which is working is the pharma and the food. So as John Adam has said, every problem is an opportunity. I think in the food processing, there is a big opportunity. I would like to emphasize that food processing is something helping to the farmer, because Chairman sir, 1 crore investment in the food processing is creating 10 jobs. Country like India, we required more investment in food processing, agro processing. Friends, I would like to say today is the word Women's Day, International Women's Day, and women are respected in India in form of mother, sister, and or daughter. Always we respect them. That is our culture. You may be from any religion, but you always respect women. When it comes to the food processing, we have a huge tradition of the food processing, a great science. Those who are interested, please log into the Nalapaka Darpan. Maybe a 8,000-year-old book has given an amazing aspect of processed food and quality, safety, GMP, GHP. Ballav Bhima, when he was in Agyatwas, he has invented the avial dish and also has written a chapter 12 on the what to eat, what not to eat. And Nuksa-e Shahjahan, the book written by Shahjahan on various formulation of food. Sambar is also actually what we eat with idli and dosa, is a accidental invention when Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj visited to Tanjavur, and he was offered a special dish of Maharashtrian dish called amti. In place of dahi, they have added tamarind, and the accidental dish was named in honor of Sambhaji called Sambar. I think as an Indian, we need to understand our science and tradition. Bigger the crisis, bigger the innovation. Let me tell you, in this COVID time, number of products which have actually started coming into the market, number of startups which have started coming into the market are absolutely mind-blowing. And that's why bigger the crisis, bigger the innovation. What has happened in the Second World War, First World War, maximum patent got applied during this war. More number of innovations happened during this war. I will not name the innovations. I'm seeing that during this COVID time, you will get many innovations in coming time. I always appeal to the students and also the researchers why we cannot do something like what has happened in the space of IT, like Uber, Alibaba, Airbnb, Apple, WhatsApp. Can we do such kind of innovations in area of food processing? If we do not innovate, we will evaporate. Ambassador car, Kodak film, pager, HMT watches. Startup is a very important aspect, and my important 2 slides, Chairman Sir. Spoilage of the food is an important aspect. Safety of the food is very important aspect, and food will get deteriorated because of presence of oxygen, sunlight, exposure in the time, physical stress, abuse, insects, microbes, food enzymes, moisture loss, and also inappropriate temperature. Now, these are the causes of spoilage. And what could be the solution? Solution is a food preservation and processes which called as high-end processes, which are maybe thermal base or non-thermal base. But these processes are being used by the various startups to achieve a good quality. This week only, I'm going to speak on the Ayurvedic conference, what food science can teach to the Ayurveda and how we can convert bioactives, a good bioactives in Ayurveda to retain the activity of the bioactive through a modern food technological advanced processing techniques. There are many techniques like high hydrostatic pressure, HHP, pulse electric field, microwave technique, extrusion techniques, pulse light technique, ohmic heating. Nowadays, all these techniques are being utilized. More and more, the products are coming in nutraceutical space. These techniques are getting utilized because they all are low temperature, non-thermal processing and can retain all the actives. Less than 8% startups in India are in the area of agriculture and food. We want to increase to 20%. As we all are aware, in startup, you require a unique idea, market need, finance, supply chain, and regulatory compliances, and one the person called entrepreneur. But in supply chain manufacturing, you require a process. And this is very, very important in the startup. If you have an idea, it has to get converted into the reality. It's called the kinetic energy. Having idea is of no use only. Also, you need to have a mentor, which is very, very important, who will guide you, who will be giving you all the details. This is a very important slide. What I want to showcase that in food processing area, these are the startup ideas and trends: personalized nutrition, organic, natural, traditional, vegan, e-platform, export, home cooked food, plant-based meat. Every third startup is coming into the plant-based meat, cloud kitchen, multigrain, intermediate products. During this COVID time, all the men have started cooking and they cannot cook from scratch. They need some support like sauces. That intermediate product industry is growing. Ayurveda food, I see that coming 5 years, 20 billion US dollar will be the Ayurveda food industry, and there is a huge scope for Ayurveda food for in export as well as domestic. Safe food, new packaging, packed food, functional food, post-COVID food, immunity boosting food, mental health food, sleep disorder. Dr. Raj sir, sleep disorder is the biggest issue and food can actually solve the problem rather than going for addiction with the medicine. Convenience food. So these are the various ideas and we need to invest more time in the processing. Research and development, either you can do from consumer backward or technology forward. Most of the startups to the consumer backward, understand the consumer need and ride on that. So these are the technology forward ideas and consumer backward ideas, like what consumer has demanded, you actually give back to the society. India is a great country with the great custom, with the great tradition. Thanks to this masala box, which includes all the nutraceutical property in the cumin, seeds, turmeric powder, red chili powder, coriander powder, and right quantity, right process. That's why we are not having many mental issues, not having Parkinson diseases, thanks to all these masalas, thanks to Kerala, thanks to Goa, thanks to Northeast, and thanks to this tradition. If you go to the Western country, they do not eat such kind of masalas and they have so many problems. Now, actually, the mental problem, neurological problems are associated with the all less spice consumption. Just to give you one number, in India, population of 137 crore, Alzheimer diseases are only 40 lakhs, which translate to 0.3%. USA is 1.8%. Just imagine Alzheimer. Thanks to the turmeric consumption in India. This way we can actually, same way as coconut oil, same way is our mustard oil, so many nutraceuticals property. Definition of wealth has changed to health. W has been replaced with H. And just my last slide. Everybody wants to look good. Everybody wants to look young. Food processing can play an important role into this. Nutraceutical is riding. Now, these are the few examples of the startup ecosystem, and we all are big fan of the shark, and India has made shark successful, but we need to appreciate actually the startups. In the traditional food, startups can really play an important role. These are my credentials. Thank you. If any query, I will be very happy. And again, I am giving thanks to the organizer for inviting me. Thank you, sir. I hope I have completed in the given time.
So thank you so much, Prabodji. Well, before time that you promised, despite the technical glitch that we had in the beginning, and you touched a few very important points, especially related to the innovation during the pandemic areas and how a lot of startups are taking birth during this period. And a lot of startup ideas that you gave us, they were brilliant, and I'm sure the viewers here are they must have taken a few startup ideas. Your presentation and this video will be shared with the audience that I hear, and you very rightly you touched a very I mean, at least with me it's a sore nerve, and this is sleep disorder. Good food will actually avoid sleep disorders, and you won't need medicine. And here I'm sure a lot of listeners here would agree that the kind of the stress levels which are there in our professions is the sleep disorders are perhaps very common and probably grossly underreported. So this becomes very interesting. So viewers must take some guidance from this presentation by Prabodji that sleep disorder, have good food, sleep disorders will go away in the due course of time. So thank you so much.
Ayurvedic actually use like ashwagandha. If you add ashwagandha in the biscuits, ashwagandha in some, ashwagandha reduces the stress level. research is required, Dr. Raj, and I think our one more important. I'm also on the board of
Just paused.
all the money which we are going to the research should get utilized for innovation, for industry, for social benefit, not only producing the technical paper. This is very, very important, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabodji. And with this, I move on to the last speaker for today's session, which is Ms. Pritika, who is working with QCI itself, a young, enthusiastic young professional. And she's been working with Quality Council of India for some time as an analyst. And she's an MTech in food and nutritional biotechnology. And she has been recognized as a food safety ambassador by FSSAI, Surakshit Khadan Abhiyan, Food and Agriculture Center of Excellence, and CII. So, and she's certified as a food safety supervisor by FOSTAC, Government of India. So, very strong credentials, Pritika. Welcome to this, and the mic is handed over to you, Pritika. Pritika is Pooja, can you check if Pritika is there?
Yes, Dr. Raj, checking with her.
In the meantime, I have there were a couple of questions. Perhaps by the time she joins in, I have a question with Dr. Murthy if he's there. Dr. Murthy, you're there. Dr. Murthy, kindly unmute yourself. I have a small question which perhaps will be of interest to the audience as well. Anyways, I will say out my question, and maybe Mr. Govindarajanji or Shailenji can address this question, any one of you. My question is regarding the importance of storage. See, what happens in processed food especially, there's an immense time lag between processing, manufacturing, and the final consumption. So, and most of the times we have seen that some small operators, they mess it up somewhere, especially during storage. Not necessarily transportation, but during storage. So if Shailenji, maybe you could talk about some good practices regarding storage at various stages of manufacturing, from manufacturing to consumption. Shailenji.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Raj. Actually, this is very, very important. You have touched upon this point. The question is very, very important question, because we end up wasting or we end up spoiling our product if the storage is not proper. Likewise, it again comes under the design part. Likewise, when we talk about the complete value chain design, storage part is also there. Now we have to have the requirement as per the product temperature requirement, product stack height requirement, product moisture, if some moisture affected products are there, those requirements need to be seen at the time of the initial time when we are going for the manufacturing of the product, and the storage chain, everything, the front end chain has to be seen in during the design part only. And then there are things which need to be put in place, like temperature data recording, where we can see how that warehouse is behaving, and certain requirements are need to be assessed. Generally what we do, we assess our plants for quality and food safety, and we forget to assess that important part of the value chain. So that is also very important, and those need to be rated, graded, qualified, approved before going forward with the storage part.
Thank you so much, Shailenji. Grateful, and I believe this particular aspect. I am also from the hospitality and food business, and I have realized that for any food business operator, pilferage, spoilage, and portion control are so important, and while operating any food business, and that will take you to cloud 9 or 6 feet under. So I think now we have our a speaker, Pritika, amongst us. Pritika, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Pritika. If you could keep it short, we'll be grateful. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to share my screen. Just give me a second.
Pritika, is there any difficulty in you? Yes, we
My
can see
screen
your
is
screen.
visible.
If you could put
Yes,
it on
sir.
slideshow mode, thank you. And if you could keep it short, Pritika, we have crossed our lunch time, and we
Yes,
are
sir, I
keeping
understand.
our viewers as well as speakers away from something which is very important, which we are discussing right now: food.
Yes, sir. Hygiene rating scheme for strengthening food safety in food establishments. This is the topic of today. My screen is not visible, sir.
It is visible. If you could put it in slideshow mode.
Yes, one sec. Let me try it. Yes.
Yes, please
Outline
go
of the presentation. I'll be introducing about the hygiene rating scheme, IndiGap, and India GHP and India HACCP, and voluntary smart food certification scheme. These are the key areas of expertise of PAD working as of designing and developing of schemes as of I have mentioned IndiGap, India GHP, HACCP, and many schemes are there. And all these are being the expertise areas working as we are giving technical support to regulators, also benchmarking of IndiGap, as well as giving capacity building program for the medicinal plant projects, etc. Hygiene rating scheme. It is an Equality Council of India, at the basis of FSSAI, has come out with a scheme for the recognition of hygiene rating audit agency, which is known as HRA, to scale up hygiene rating by increasing the number of recognized HRA in our country. It is a voluntary hygiene rating scheme, which has been given to the food businesses supplying food directly to the consumer either on or off premises. The food establishments are rated based on the food hygiene and the safety conditions being observed at the time of audit, and the rating is being given in the form of stickers, that is smileys from 1 to 5 based on the audit scores. The scheme also makes the consumer to make an informed choice about the food outlets where they eat, improving the hygiene and safety standards. And the scheme is applicable for the food service establishment, which includes hotels, restaurants, cafeterias, dabas, and sweet shops, bakeries, and meat retail shops. These three last categories are the retail shops. And hygiene rating requirements. Hygiene rating requirements are based on the Schedule 4 of FSSAI licensing and registration of food businesses, which is being established by FSSAI. And these are the following requirements which has to be fulfilled by the FSCs as of good manufacturing practices, good hygiene practices, as of cleaning, raw material, cooking, chilling, all these criteria to be fulfilled by the food establishments. Personal hygiene, transportation and handling of food as to maintain the time, temperature, and handling of foods. Storage practices to be compiled, as well as the special requirements for high-risk foods such as cut fruits, meat, poultry, fish, water-based chutneys, sauces, etc. And hygiene rating certificate is a sample certificate which is being given to the food service establishment being rated. And these are the HRA requirements. They should fulfill some general requirements as of legal responsibility, impartiality, independence, and confidentiality, administrative requirements as audit agreements, structural requirements, organization managements, resource requirements, the personnel involved, facilities and equipments being utilized by the HRA peoples, and auditing methods, procedures as of SOP to be maintained, how they conduct audits to, and FSCs, audit report, audit certificate, everything to be maintained, and compliance and appeal. All these to be maintained to be given a recognition from QCI. These are the recognition procedure. Application followed by document review, office assessment, witness assessment, and recognition. After the recognition, after 1 year, surveillance assessment and witness assessment will be carried on based on the risk-based category being given. And applicants accredited by NABCB are also invited for the application, just only for the purpose of registration. And witness assessment can also be done after the recognition of HRA. Letter of recognition which is being given to the HRA people. This is a sample format. Challenges in recognitions of HRA, conflict of interest, legal entity, submission of application documents, and number of auditors and training. These will be the major challenges which makes delay in recognizing HRA. And this is the next certification scheme, INTIGAP. Scope of certification, INTIGAP, as well as the general modules. There are 3 basic modules: all farm-based and crop-based modules, and biodiversity modules. And main components of INTIGAP include soil amendments and manuring, traceability, record keeping, water management, pesticides and their use, planting materials, health of the workers and training of the workers, harvesting, pesticides and field sanitization. All of these are the main components of INTIGAP scheme, and this has been a logo of INTIGAP. And next scheme is India GHP and India Hazard Certification Scheme. It follows the entire supply chain. This is the objective and background. Just to verify the compliance of FBO through a voluntary certification scheme. These certification schemes are based on the international best practices and global practices, and ensuring international trade also. It is also, not only provide assurance to the food, but also it gives in confidence to the internationally traded food. And next is the voluntary smart food certification scheme. This scheme has 3 critical aspects: good for the consumer, good for the planet, and good for the farmers. Based on these 3 critical aspects, this certification scheme is being developed. The need for this is to popularize the smart food as of millets, and major millets and minor millets have been popularized here due to the low investment made in the value chain and low consumer awareness, and requiring a certification process in place just to make consumer awareness. The smart food logo will be awarded to an individual manufacturers clusters when they go for a third-party review or certification and testing. And it signifies the assurance of food safety, quality, and hygiene. And these are the voluntary schemes designed by QCI PAD. These are the other schemes. Yes, food safety is everyone's responsibility. Thank you. I hope I've completed my presentation very, very shortly.
Thank you. Thank you. That was fast, Pritika, very quick. And thank you for taking us through the various food-related schemes that QCI has in conjunction with government as well as on its own. I would now request, if you could just take off this presentation, Pritika, I'd be grateful. I would now request all the speakers to kindly switch on their video so that we can have a digital group photograph here. Requesting everyone to kindly switch on their videos. Dr. Murthy.
But sir, do send the photograph to us.
Yes, we definitely will.
Thank you, Doctor.
Yes, Prabodhi, thank you so much.
LNG, it was a wonderful presentation, very technical.
Namaste sir, namaste. कैसे हैं आप?
बढ़िया, बढ़िया है sir. Thank you, Ashish ji. Thank you.
Dr. Murthy, if you can hear us, if you can switch on your video, Dr. Murthy. Dr. Murthy is still there. Yes, I can see him. Dr. Murthy, if you can see us, hear us, if you could switch on your video for a group photograph. In digital times, that's what we have to resort to for a group photograph. Before Dr. Murthy, by the time Dr. Murthy comes in, a message for all the audiences who are here. There was a couple of questions which you could not take up. I request you to kindly mail it to QCI and address and write who do you want this question to be addressed to. For example, if you have a question for Dr. Halde, you can write a question for Dr. Halde and have that question, and we will have it shared with Dr. Halde. He will respond back to us and we will respond back to you. So to all the audiences here, if you have any questions, send it to NBQP QCI and we shall get back to you as soon as possible with the revert. So thank you once again. I think Dr. Murthy is not able to hear us, or he would have screened. So Pooja, over back to you and to Mr. Biswas.
Thank you, Dr. Raj. As we close our second session, I would like to thank our moderator, Dr. Raj, and the speakers, Dr. K.S. Murthy, Mr. Govind Rajan, Mr. Shailendra Kumar, Mr. Prabodh Halde, and Ms. Pritika for enriching us with their deliberations. As deliberated in the sessions, the food sector provides a huge opportunity for growth. However, there are challenges too, and irrespective of these contrasting and challenging scenarios, one thing that has remained constant is the underlying need for food safety. We are glad to see how the authorities and the industry have come together to ensure a resilient system for an undisrupted supply of safe food, even during these testing times. Before we move ahead to the vote of thanks, I would like to inform that we will be sharing a feedback form on email and request everyone to spare some time and provide your feedback with us, as your feedback is valuable to us. With this, we move to the end of today's conclave, and it's time now for the vote of thanks. May I request Mr. C.K. Biswas, CEO NBQP, for the vote of thanks? Sir, you are on mute.
Yeah, so good afternoon. Thank you, Pooja. Good afternoon and welcome back for this closure. And I'm CK Bishwas, and for those of you who have joined late, and I'm the CEO of NBQP. And today we have had an eventful day with all the eminent speakers giving an insight and effort to bring together the key stakeholders on a common platform, providing them with an opportunity to share and discuss the emerging trends in technology, standards and best practices adopted by the regulators, industry and service sectors in these ever-changing circumstances. I'm sure that there have been a lot of value additions and takeaways from the very interesting sessions. Food technology helps food manufacturers produce more efficiently for a growing population. The Indian food and beverage sector is looking at modernization to keep pace with the ongoing trends and regulations. Companies are considering innovative ways of keeping food safe and sustainable. By using technology to improve processing and packaging, it can improve the shelf life and safety of food too. Well, today we have had around 300 participants and the conclave has been a success with such meaningful deliberations. I, on behalf of NBQP QCI, would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the distinguished speakers from the regulatory standard bodies as well as the distinguished speakers from the corporate world who have spared the valuable time to enlighten us on the conclave theme through the excellent presentations. I extend my sincere thanks to all the distinguished speakers of the technical sessions 1 and 2. They would be recognized by a green certificate. I would also like to thank the esteemed delegates for being with us, without which the conclave would not have been possible. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Rajesh Maheshwari, CEO and ABCB, and Dr. Raj, Dr. Shukla, Dr. Manish Pandey, Head PAD, and the team for joining hands with NBQP and collaborating for such a noble cause. Last but not the least, I would like to thank our media promotion cell, Mr. Sanjay Singh and his team, and our own NBQP team, Pooja, Ashish, Adarsh, and Himali. Please do send your feedback as it helps us to continually improve our programs and also to include the questions that you would like to ask us. Thank you again, and now you may sign off. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vishwas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.